Welcome to the Austin All Day Podcast. I'm here with Chef Phillip Crossley of Counter Cafe. This was a fun one. Thank you everyone for listening. Sit back, grab a drink, and enjoy.
Do a little 1, 2, 3 mic check.
That's perfect.
Do a rice check.
And how does everything sound?
It sounds fantastic.
So these arms, you can kind of...
Sure. It's like being in the radio studio.
Pretty much.
All right. Little boom stand action.
Little therapeutic, actually, with your voice going through there. It's right. It's kind of
nice.
Kind of nice.
I feel like I'm back at Co-op.
Yeah?
Yeah. They do it's a cooperative radio station, so you can go in sometimes.
Here in Austin?
Yeah, and be a guest DJ if you know somebody.
And you've done that?
I have done that. It's a blast.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Yeah, that's fun. So, Chef Phil from Counter Cafe.
Sure.
We're here. We're getting going already.
All right.
Yeah.
We're rolling?
Yeah, we are rolling.
Fantastic. Tape is on.
Why not?
Oh, where's the reel? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Actually, the funny thing is, everything that we do, I actually run through a digital reel-to-reel.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool.
Give it the tape quality.
Oh, yeah. I have a buddy home in Chicago who I bounce kind of what I'm doing with the audio off of, and he put the reel-to-reel on every track, everything you do.
That's
always.
Beautiful.
Oh, it's
beautiful.
a good suggestion.
All right.
Keep it warm.
So, have you started introducing yourself to your listeners yet, or are you still making them guess?
It's a guessing game. I mean, I think it will reveal itself in
sooner
time.
or later. It's like one of those Easter eggs in the movies. You have to listen to all the podcast, and maybe at the end you'll find out exactly what's going to happen.
So I had some. It's funny because you said that to me, and either that day or the following day, somebody shot me a message. Someone who I hadn't inquired about the podcast, which is great. So he organically stumbled upon it, and he messaged me, which is also cool. And he said, so the same thing. He's like, somebody needs to interview you.
Yeah, right.
And explain. And I was like, okay, I'll be in touch. And he said, maybe I can do it. And I said, okay, But like I said, I kind of want to shine a light onto the guys in the kitchen, right? I mean, I walk in the kitchen and I leave.
This is true. That's the beauty of your job.
It is the beauty. I always joke and say, if I were here 8 hours a day with you or longer,
right,
we'd be at each other's throats in a week.
Maybe that happens.
It's very possible. That happens in kitchens. Yeah.
Man, I forgot how brassy and tinny my voice sounds on a microphone. This is why I never sang.
Yeah. Really? What did you try at all?
Oh, I try all the time. I'm really, really horrible. I can't carry a tune in a bucket.
But persistent to try all the time.
Oh, yeah. It's a joy that
Your voice sounds fine in my headset.
Yeah, well, no one likes how their own voice sounds.
That's
supposedly.
True. That's true.
It is definitely true for me.
Yeah. No, I do play music, and I will sing over it, and that ruins it all.
I feel the exact same way.
Yeah, I'll be happy with the song. I'll even be happy singing it until I've heard it back. And I'm like, you take that out and we're good.
Doesn't it make you wonder, like, is everybody like that? Joan Jett was like, oh, I know Roy Orbison was embarrassed. And people were like, dude, you got a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
Just go out there and be ugly.
And just go for it.
Hendrix didn't like his own voice.
Yeah,
But look how that turned out.
He's known for his guitar playing, but when you say that, he's got like that
very distinctive voice.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
I didn't know that fact about him. That's interesting.
Yeah, he didn't like his tone, but people said, suck it up, dude.
Oh, Hendrix is he's never going to die. Never going to die. It's never going away.
I was listening to it yesterday, man.
It's always lately it's been a lot of podcasts, but when I throw on something like Hendrix especially, it never gets old. And I don't think it ever will.
If you could steal it, it'd be a great intro.
I had gone over a couple things with the Willie Nelson because we're in Austin. I had Kitchen Confidential I mentioned yesterday was Austin Kitchen Confidential. Right. But all of this stuff, I don't know how, if you get any, the copyrights and
it's
ownership.
Probably total copyright infringement. You'll probably get a cease and desist, and you'll get sued. It'll be great publicity.
So anything that you're actually hearing here is just like original kind of music that is like completely safe, and I haven't had to like go out and ask, is this okay?
That's kind of square, but all right.
Whatever. I've put it out there and I've gotten no feedback so far. But like local
Okay.
bands putting stuff in here,
Right. That's a great idea.
oh, it'd be so
I like
cool.
that.
I would love people shooting me like music.
tunes.
Yeah,
Sure.
Oh, how cool would that be? And
That
it
would be very
kinda
cool.
Shed a light onto another scene because I mean a lot of chefs are into music.
Music plays. It's really strange how diverse a role music plays in the kitchen. Since we're kind of ended up on this topic just randomly, if you walk into 9 out of 10 joints, you're probably going to hear like Tejano or Conjunto or,
Yeah.
you're going to hear some kind of Latino music.
That's true.
That I think has obviously a strong tie to the population that's working and doing the hard grunt work.
Yep.
But each chef, I think, has in their body and in their mind and in their soul and their personality something that they listen to that motivates them.
Yeah.
One of the guys I worked for down here, when I first moved down here, I moved down here when I was like 21. That's like 1995. So I'm 46. I might
Okay.
be one of the older people you interview.
So far, yeah, but I mean,
So I've been here, 25 years. When I first moved down here, the chef I worked for, his name was Peter O'Brien.
Okay.
He was a Culinary Institute of America graduate. I think he was roommates with maybe David Bull over there at 2nd Street. He used to be the exec over at the Driscoll.
okay.
And I think either he was roommates or classmates, and I think he was also roommates and or classmates or something with the cat Jean Paul, who owns Wink.
Wink, yeah.
So at one point, culinary, the CIA was like one of only a handful of schools that even existed to go do culinary training. It was like, there was
And that's in San Antonio, right?
well, now it is. Originally, there was just the CIA in Hyde Park, New York.
Oh, okay.
So you had to go to New York.
All right.
You had to have something like I don't know, an X number of years experience in the kitchen itself
Oh, before you're even allowed.
before they would even let you apply.
I kind of like that rule, actually.
that is totally different now. It's like you have to have 5 years of restaurant experience and
That's still good, though.
sort of, because if you're waiting tables, it's one thing. If you're bartending, it's another thing. If you're doing management, it's one thing.
Well, I've talked to a guy
Yeah.
with zero kitchen experience who just enrolled and was in Le Cordon Bleu. Whenever.
Yeah, so Le Cordon Bleu didn't exist outside of like France, really.
Yeah,
when
and
I was
now
coming
it's-
up.
Now it's gone.
And now it's gone.
Yeah,
Well, as
which
far
is-
as like the chain mechanism of it goes.
Yeah, it's still in France.
It's still in France.
Yeah.
So the CIA was around. I think there was one in Hyde Park. There was maybe Johnson and Wales. They had a program. There was for sure there was like maybe the Art Institute of San Francisco or something that did a culinary program, but it
Right.
was well before there was like the daytime TV ads. You need a change in your life? Come to culinary school.
Yeah.
Get an exciting career in the culinary. Blah blah blah.
Little short infomercial.
Yeah, right. So that cat I worked with, he was heavy into jazz.
Jazz.
So we listened to a lot of jazz in the kitchen, and that was really exciting because I like jazz myself.
Yeah, jazz is very cool.
I prefer, personally, when I'm working, I listen to a lot of classical. I like classical piano pieces, so I listen to a lot of Chopin or
While you're working.
while I work, and I love it.
Headphones, stereo.
Preferably on the stereo. I
Yeah.
find the headphones to be cumbersome.
Well, especially in the kitchen, you get
Yeah.
you need to be in the moment.
you need
there.
to be there. It's
You
an
need to hear
auditory
things.
experience,
Yeah.
working in the kitchen. The
I
sound
always
of the
question when I see someone with headphones on. I'm
food.
like,
Yeah, they're not really paying attention.
hot behind
No.
anybody? Just-
They are. Yeah, they're not paying attention. They're doing what they're doing,
Right.
and they're focused on that work, and that's great.
Yeah.
But when you cook, there's so many aspects to the culinary, the cooking process. If you're deriving yourself of one of your senses, you're missing something.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're bringing up the music and because somebody the other day had mentioned how he hires, and it wasn't somebody who was in here. It came up that he had heard in a conversation that one of these chefs hires people and conducts his staff like a band, like
Okay.
the prep is
Sure.
like the practice,
Sure.
like there's like a show.
Sure.
It's very similar.
There's definitely
Jazz though it's all right. You have to have a certain ear for jazz.
You have to have a certain ear for jazz. You also have to have a certain fundamental understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, I've heard that.
People mistake improvisation.
For like sloppy all over the place.
I was going to say more like I don't know, when you're improvising, you're coming off of a base of knowledge. And it's that base of knowledge that allows you to improvise.
Yeah.
If you don't have that base of knowledge, you're not really improvising. You're just kind of like throwing stuff together.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when I talk with either, coworkers or friends or hires or new hires or people who are interested in cooking, a lot of the cats are like, "Oh yeah, man, I don't use recipes. Recipes are dumb, blah blah blah." And
Wow.
honestly, they're doing themselves a disservice.
Yeah.
A recipe is
That's something you hear.
Yeah, a lot of times. A recipe though is just it's like written music.
Right.
If you pick up
And it can be a bass line.
it could be a bass line, it could be anything.
To improv off of.
Improv off of. If
Okay.
someone has taken something and written something down,
Yeah, 100%.
and then you don't have to reinvent that moment. Like you're like, okay, I can move with this, and I can now take this theme, this melody, in the case of food, these flavors, and I can bounce around with them. But I have to know where I'm coming from to know where I'm going, and I have to understand what I'm doing so I can get back. Because if you listen to jazz, the theme is always in there, even if it gets lost. It always comes back.
Yeah, you've got that one guy kind of off in La La Land, but somewhere he ties it back into the.
And even if you can't recognize what he's doing, he knows what he's doing.
He does, yeah.
And he'll always come back
Yeah.
to that theme. And that was one of the cool things I liked about working with Peter, was that the jazz in the kitchen really set the tone and the pace for the food we were doing. And we were doing very fine. It was all like French influence, fine dining.
French.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very heavy on the French influence.
This was.
That would be here in town. It was a restaurant called, when I started working with him, he was the new executive chef at a place called Bertram's, which is the building now that the Clay Pit is in. It used to be a fine dining Texas game. 15th and Guad.
Okay, that's what
San
it is.
Jacinto. It's like Guad on one side, and
He's getting those streets
Lavaca on the other, whatever it is. It's one way and the other.
Yeah.
It was game fine dining, so it was like wild boar and Axis deer when Axis deer was just getting kind of popular. And
We have Wild now. Have you heard of that? Wild Kitchen? Because we don't have a lot of that, do we? The Wild.
Pardon me.
That's right. The game, right?
There's a few game joints in town. There's I'm not familiar with Wild. I do know
It's new. It's out on 71.
Okay. Hudson's on the Bend has always had a pretty strong tradition of doing
On 620, right?
Yeah, of doing like some gamey stuff.
Okay.
It's not everyone's palate, and
no.
people's the food industry. It all runs on trends.
Yeah.
Hamburgers are the flavor of the year for a couple of years, and then it's sushi, and then it's Italian food, and then it's French food, and then it's some other thing, and then it's a noodle house, and then it's like back to cigar bars and wine, and then it goes back to tapas, and then it just kind of cycles through. And it's interesting if you look at the restaurants that have come and gone and stayed, you can see the wave cresting on each trend. It's been really interesting. Like we have...
Yeah, 25 years here. That's pretty cool. I mean, you have a unique take on this, especially, a little bit older. Not much older.
Much older.
You're not much older than myself, but 37, for anyone who's wondering. 37, but 25 years, you've seen, it's been drastic, right? And you've seen
it's
some
been
people
crazy.
stay.
Yeah. What's really been interesting to me is culinarily, things grow and explode and they change. It's an industry. It's going to go in all these different directions, and that's cool. What I've found to be most interesting is how the price point has swayed in this town. When I first moved down here, working for Peter, I was working for him for a year, and then I left and I went down to the Keys to help his sous chef open a restaurant down there. And then I came back up, and I ended up working back for Peter at his place, Seabone, which is the building that now is Uchi.
Okay. That wasn't built for Uchi.
No. That design actually, if you just replace the red and the black, and with
Interesting.
lavender and yellow,
Yeah.
and you take away the sushi bar and you put in like a cocktail bar, you've got basically what Seabone was going to be. But halfway through the process, there was a whole slew of events that just turned the whole thing upside down, and the project collapsed.
Uh-huh.
Basically, they tried to expand, and in expanding
That
it
kind
fell
of
apart.
recently happened with Hudson on the Bend. Did you see all that happen?
No, I did not.
They had closed and reopened on 620, and I don't know any of the details. I know they had this beautiful garden, and I won't go into things
Sure.
that I've even heard, but it
Right.
closed up and no one was there for a while. And
Oh, that's terrible.
yeah, but it's similar, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if everything's not aligned and everybody's not playing their cards right,
It's a huge gambit
yeah.
financially.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting about Uchi, though.
Yeah,
because it's
so-
so unique and everybody loves it.
well, it's got good food. But even like Tyson Cole, I've met him a couple times. He wouldn't remember me from anybody, but when they first started, when they first opened, I was going in there fairly regularly. And I would sit at the bar and I would read and I would just have a glass of wine, some snacks. And he was always very outgoing, always very engaging, always willing to reach across the counter and try something new with somebody. But what was interesting, price point wise, is that they were selling, what was it? There's a really good red wine out there. It's a Pinot Noir. It was Wild Horse Pinot Noir. It's a really good Pinot. You could buy it at the grocery store. I'm talking like HEB for like $25 a bottle, and they were selling it for like $25 a glass.
Yeah,
And they were convincing people to buy it.
Right.
And that wasn't always that way. When I worked at Cbone, a huge dinner this is like late '90s, early 2000s. Dell had gone public, and the stock had split, and you had all these Dellionaires. That's what we called them. And we had the governor then was Bush, so he was coming in. His brother, the whole family was coming in. We were basically feeding all the top tier investors and the wealthy people in this town.
Yeah.
And it was not uncommon for them to come in and drop $400 or $500 on a night on a good table, right?
Yeah.
Back then, that seemed like an exorbitant amount. Now, 4 people go out, they're each spending $100 a piece.
Yeah, especially Uchi. If you want to do it any justice, you're well over $100.
Yeah, like per person.
Per person.
So
yeah.
we've gone from a point where fine dining, the upper echelon of what you were spending, is now the baseline price point for your basic dinner.
Okay, good. I'm glad we landed there because I feel like everything is so expensive here.
Too fucking expensive. Pardon
Yeah.
my French. It's a podcast,
It's fine.
right?
It's okay.
Yeah, pardon my français. It's really interesting, and the cool thing about that is that people, some of that is because people are getting paid, basically a living wage, and some of that money is trickling into the workers. But a lot of that is honestly, you are just paying for someone's decoration bill and their build out.
Yeah.
It's the cost of doing business. It's the increase in the living expenses. And to me, historically, the people who have always been driving food innovation have always been poor people. Everything comes from poor people.
Well, we see a lot of that. You started with the music we see in kitchens. And,
Yeah.
there's a lot of these guys who are slaving away 8 hours and going right over to another job.
Oh, absolutely.
And none
Yeah.
of them.
We're
a lot
feeding
of guys,
rich people, but
Yeah.
the poor people are what are the
Oh, yeah.
dynamic innovators in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
And this is so you asked me earlier today, if I went to school anywhere. I got a degree in anthropology from UT.
Yes.
This last year, I graduated last year. It took me a long time of working, and I went to school, and then it didn't work for me, and I spent a long time in the culinary world, in the restaurant world, and I love it. A few years ago, I was like, I want to go back to school. I kind of fell into anthropology. And there's 2 sides. There's the physical side of where we come from out of Africa, blah, 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 the great migrations. And then there's the cultural side. And the
Yeah.
cultural side is really a beautiful thing to look at and think about in the culinary process, because you see the influence and where things come from and how they change. And so when I say poor people are driving it, barbecue is a poor food. Sushi is a poor food. Bento boxes, that's a poor food.
Yeah.
All these things. Street tacos.
Right.
Who's going to pay $12 for a street taco? Not a poor guy,
It's definitely interesting.
but it's poor food.
Right.
All the real things that noodle houses. Come on, man.
So what do you think that underlying where all of that kind of is surfacing up almost why? Do you have a philosophy as to why?
I think, on the
Besides that it's good, simple food.
on the base of it, I think it's just good, simple food, and it's very approachable.
It's like ratatouille.
Yeah, it's just very approachable.
Yeah.
Everybody can get behind it.
Yeah.
Everybody likes noodles.
Right.
They're in like now, they didn't used to be in every cultural country around the world, but now it's hard, to go someplace and not find some sort of noodle.
Yeah.
But even things like corn. Corn came from the New World. Corn was food that poor people ate.
Yep.
Now corn is like a main ingredient in like all over the world.
Oh, I mean, it's probably in something nearby.
It's it very well could be in the alcohol you're drinking because they use a corn liquor to make your vodka or to make your beer, like some aspect of your beer or whatever they might be doing, But it's interesting to have seen the shift here in town from there being a distinction between high-end foods that require the ability and the palate to pair wines and do courses and pay for that now that same price point is just the baseline price point of going in and getting a fucking hamburger.
All right. And I mean, there are a lot of places that have a really good hamburger and, things are good. We're paying for like local ingredients sometimes. There's a lot of factors that maybe people might want to consider in this equation, but at the same time, I think what you're trying to point out is that like a fine dining experience literally equals today when you go out and get a burger or something. Absolutely. Which is, I think it's true.
At our place, for us, not to get like too crazy, but what's going on, one of the newest things that we have now is like, ownership wants to have a strip steak on the menu.
Yeah.
Great. Strip steak is like, it's like $25 for the strip steak and eggs and potatoes, and that's cool. But we're a breakfast joint.
Yeah.
That is based off diner culture. Diner culture is in of itself poor people food.
Counter cafe.
Counter cafe.
At both of them, going back and forth. Right.
So you see, even with us, the diner culture is slowly pushing itself away from its roots.
Yeah.
And people go to the diner and they sit down, they have mimosas, and we serve eggs Benedict, and we got a hanger steak and a strip steak, and we're doing all this stuff. But again, like there's a disconnect between what a diner really is.
Is that on the menu yet?
The strip steak is not.
It's not.
It's on the specials board, but
okay. Is it doing well?
It's hard to say. We're selling a few here and there.
Yeah.
It's mostly if the wait staff pushes it and they let people know we have it. They say there's a slide up charge and they may pay for it. But again,
I see.
When was the last time you went to a diner in a small town and got a strip steak?
Right.
You generally go to like Ruth's Chris or a Chop House or someplace that's going to have that kind of a grade of meat.
That's interesting. So you're seeing that just recently.
I see that now, and I've been watching it happen for the last couple of years.
Well, you've seen it, but now you're seeing it in your own kitchen.
I'm seeing it where we are.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely.
Places
like in my backyard, so to say.
Yes.
So having been here for 25 years has allowed me to see some really interesting things. The downside of it is that when you're anywhere for too long of a place, you can become an old fart, and you're like, I remember when it used to be super cheap and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, but I've heard excellent things about Austin, about the way that it quote unquote used to be.
Yeah,
and I'm part of the problem, if you will. I'm from Chicago, and if you. I feel a little bad about that.
I wouldn't feel too bad. We're all transplants.
There's a lot of people here now from all parts of the country.
Right.
And it's very clear.
I think it's great. I'll say this. A lot of the newcomers and the transplants get blamed for the traffic. Texans have always been shitty drivers, so you can't blame the new guy.
Yeah.
I understand
that.
They're one of the things I do like being able to go down to Whole Foods, and they might have some decent Indian dishes on the hot bar now. I like the fact that there's an Indian subcontinent population here that's influencing the foods that are coming in. There's way more like
sag.
Man, like any kind of sog, kormas. Really, my girlfriend, she lives up at 183 and McNeil, and there's like a full-on Nepalese restaurant up there. I love that.
Yeah. No, that's definitely cool. Yeah, no, it's not all bad.
No,
Right.
no, it's fantastic, and I think the more of that we get, the better it is. What I really love, and this again goes back to like to some degree to my studies in college and my training in anthropology.
I love that's what you've chose to study
No, it was great,
while being a chef.
dude. They're hand in hand.
That's what I said.
It's hand in hand.
It almost feels like it should be part of culinary arts degree.
As a matter of fact, CIA has now instituted, I think they teach it every other year as an elective, but you can take a food and anthropology class. And what's amazing is that, like, and this is going to go back to poor people. It always goes back to poor people. The things that the director and the woman, God, what was her name? I forget her name. But she's an anthropologist. She has like a PhD from Columbia or whatever it is. And they tapped into her. And what she does is she takes students and she says, okay, here's what you got. You got corn. You need to make cornmeal, but you don't have your $6,000 Vitamix blender. You don't have this thing. How are you going to make cornmeal? And everyone's like, well, I don't know. The electricity goes out. How are you going to make your cornmeal? She's like, here's a flat rock and here's a round rock. And now you're going to use a mano and a metate basically, and you're going to grind your grains.
Right.
And so she's introducing to these people, the students, these tools and techniques that are like thousands and thousands of years old, that reach back millennia in our history, that have been forgotten about because we live in this industrialized nation.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, and this is the poor people part, is that all these tools are tools of poor people. They're tools of hunters. I know more hunters who know more about cleaning birds and pigs and deer and game and cow than any chef I've ever met.
That's interesting. You think it's because how often they're doing it?
It's because of how often they're doing it and the fact that they just simply are doing it.
Yeah, and it's the industrial. Like when a lot of times when people are getting things, they're packed up. It's all
pre-cut.
All the dirty work is done.
It's all done.
I mean, my grandfather was his butcher. His knives are sitting right there.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah, and he used to tell me when the meat started changing color or it retained its color.
Right.
He told me he watched that happen.
Oh yeah. It's interesting. Like we got places like Salt and Thyme, and a few other places that
Mickle. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's by East Side Pies. I'm going to mispronounce the way it's written, like Mickelwath or something.
I don't know.
It looks like a food truck. It looks really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. That's another place to check out if you're into that.
Interesting.
At all. Yeah.
But anyway, places like Salt and Thyme, these high-end kind of butcher shops, these people are bringing back this tradition
Yes.
of like the butcher.
Yeah.
But really, the butcher was always like an uneducated oaf.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
My grandfather's still kicking it, and he's reading books, and he's very, he impresses me to this day of how like his mind is still going.
Right.
He's like 95 years old.
Butchers were always like seen as these guys in the neighborhood who like just,
Yeah.
they're working class individuals.
Oh yeah, I mean, just take a picture, like in your mind, a black and white picture of like a butcher standing.
Yeah.
That's what
Those
you think.
skills are all lost. I didn't. I know that they do teach like butchery classes and stuff at the schools, depending on where you go.
Yeah,
I never took one. I was just told to like clean a pig.
And meat cutters.
Meat cutters. I grew up with hunting upland game, so I was familiar with birds. I can clean a duck and I can clean pheasant and quail and stuff like that.
Nice. You would have done very well in some nice restaurants.
Yeah, sure. But I think those skills that the poor people have, and I say poor people in a very positive note, like your lower class and your middle class hunters and your suburban populations that are out there still kind of like living off the land, if you will, doing the hunting and the gathering. Again, they have the skill set that a lot of chefs just don't even have.
Yeah, and it maybe in a weird way it's been done some odd kind of justice. Like I mentioned ratatouille, which is a poor, French dish.
Right.
We now have a Disney movie named.
This is true.
Right. And we see all these things. And, one thing that you when we talk about, I see people going who are, let's just say poor, going from one job to another. The humbling thing is I never see them kicking a can they're like hustling. They're going to, they're
yeah,
feeding
yeah.
their family, and that's just what they're doing. And it's
And
actually,
sometimes it's all they do.
and it's very humbling to see somebody do something
Yeah.
like that. I've never actually considered myself, in a position of being, too poor to take care of my own needs.
Right.
And I don't think that they do either. I think that they're doing what they need to do. And then the result is, you get to go out to eat and enjoy
Right.
yourself. And they're not complaining at all about
No,
it.
we got a couple cats that work 2, 3, sometimes 4 jobs.
It's,
Guys from south of the border who are like, their goal is to work themselves near death for the next like 5 years and then retire and be done.
And it's funny because, I myself personally, I might
Dude, I
think
don't-
that would be good,
Fuck
but
no, dude.
you're right. You're trying to enjoy
No.
today.
I tried holding 3 jobs once and it did not work.
No,
it
it's
was a terrible.
short-lived.
It was a terrible experience.
Exhausted.
We'll never do that again.
Yeah.
I would rather like not be able to go out to eat than have the money to go out to eat and not have the time or the inclination because I'm exhausted. Yeah.
Yeah, I just never will get over that because it's very real that you'll see, maybe it's a Cuban guy, maybe it's a
Maybe.
Mexican guy, a Spanish guy, whatever it is, whoever it is in a kitchen, and they're going from one job to another job, and they don't, because we hear a lot
Don't
of,
even blink an eye.
right, we hear a lot of complaining.
Right.
It's a very common thing to just kind of, kick the can around and, Austin's grown so much, traffic is horrible, but these guys, boom, 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 boom.
Sometimes I read like a culinary magazine. Sometimes I don't. I've come across a few interesting interviews here and again. And what was I reading? I was reading something the other day, and it was really interesting because the guy was a chef. He was an executive chef, and I think he was someplace maybe in New York or like Paris or whatever. And he was being interviewed, and they were talking about the current status of the employable chef coming out of like schools and trainings. And he was very upfront about the fact that the number one issue he had to deal with was how incredibly lazy and useless all the chefs were that he came across.
Wow, bold statement.
Yeah,
Right.
just like there were, nobody could work more than 40 hours and nobody could come in early
Yeah.
on their day off and no one was willing to stay late and they all had these things to do. He attributed a lot of it to the last couple of decades of media that surrounds the culinary industry. And there's some of that, like, hey, I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to go to the Cordon Bleu. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to be a celebrity chef.
Tony Bourdain, right?
But, for it's like the NFL. For every Anthony Bourdain,
Yeah.
for every starting quarterback on an NFL team, there's an entire team that supports him, and those cats could have all been starting quarterbacks in their high school.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're not starting at the NFL level,
No,
right?
that's true.
But they still had to get there, and they still had to do the work, and they still have to put in the effort.
Oh, yeah.
And behind every one of those guys is another cat who's like second and third string.
Right.
But if those people don't put in the time and the effort, they don't get to where they're at. You don't get to be a rock star if you're not any good,
Yeah.
and you don't have a little bit of luck, and you don't actually practice.
Yeah.
Same as in the culinary world. You have to.
So, what are your thoughts? Because man, that's it's not only is it a bold statement, but it's like it opens up like a deep, almost conversation. Because what are your thoughts? Because I'm all over the place with how I think you could
Right.
answer to what. You think he's right? You think
I think there's I think every generation looks at the next generation and just thinks that they're all a bunch of spoiled, lazy brats.
right? Like the
know.
Beatles is
Sure.
horrible music. What are you guys listening to?
Yeah, But I will say that, the cooks have, and I say cooks because cook and chef is different. I think there's a level of expertise and there's a level of, there's a body of knowledge and a certain level of creation.
Can I interject
Sure.
something here? Like the difference, I think, when cook and a chef is a chef can like look at that whole line and kind of like he can like see it clearly.
Sure.
Where a cook might be focused on like the julienne
Sure.
that the chef said,
Sure.
and he gets focused,
Sure.
and the chicken,
Yeah.
gets a little flustered.
Chef just means chief in French.
Okay.
It's just the head of a kitchen. It's like technically, if you, like my brother fell into a job, he fell into being a chef. He was working at a restaurant and a hotel. The chef quit. There was nobody there. Someone said, "Hey, can you do
A
this?"
common situation sometimes.
He was like, "Yeah," and so he was now the chef of a hotel and a restaurant.
And he's working longer hours. And
You know.
was he getting paid the same, or did they up?
You know, I think he was doing all right, but you know, again, he wasn't like a trained culinarian.
Right.
He was just a guy who was there.
Yeah.
But you know, chef literally just means chief. It just means
Yeah.
like the head guy.
You're running the show.
But in the contemporary sense, I think there's more of an understanding that, you know, cooks make stuff, chefs design things. You know,
Yeah.
they have an interest in palate. They have an interest in
Some's like a puppeteer in a way,
yeah, you know,
in a good way. Not
yeah,
not
yeah.
not
not a manipulative, evil, Machiavellian
Right.
kind of like, you
Right.
know. Yeah, it's not like Faust is dancing on the strings.
Right, but the chef is moving his. You know, we're going to do this. We're going to
Yeah.
do this. You have it's all, and it really.
There's a vision.
And you were saying something. You know, you can't be good at one thing, but like, if the dishwasher's not there, you know, it's a whole chain. Well, the brigade itself.
The brigade system.
Yeah, and you should basically work everywhere.
You should basically work everywhere.
And everyone needs to understand that the dishwasher. I mean, I was taught this long ago. The dishwasher, everyone will look at him like the least important job, is the most important
man.
job, and that's it. Period.
That guy is the private in the army digging the latrine. And if you think that that's like a useless job, just wait till you have to go to the bathroom, and there ain't no latrine.
Well, and
Suddenly you're like, where'd that guy go? I love him.
oh yeah, and you look at someone like that, and it's so funny because a lot of times when you're actually in a kitchen, the dishwasher is awesome.
Dishwasher's awesome.
Love hanging with the dishwasher. You don't love doing the dishes.
No. You
love
love
when
hanging
he's
with him.
there, and you love talking to him. And they're usually awesome people, but they don't get any kind of credit.
I washed dishes. One of my jobs, I worked at a Chili's just out of high school. I had just moved to Boulder, Colorado to go to school. And I needed a job. I had to pay for rent. And the only thing that was available was washing dishes at Chili's. I wasn't there as a dishwasher more than a couple months before I ended up like on the line and doing prep. And then next thing you know, like within a year, I was like a store trainer
Wow.
because they saw in me what they wanted, what they needed. But I had to wash dishes. And back to whether or not, you know, that chef was right about the use, you know, about the willingness to work. I think that there is an unearned expectancy amongst new chefs that when they walk into a kitchen, that if the toilet's clogged up, that they're too good to go unclog the toilet, that if the dishes need to be washed, they're too exciting and too creative to go wash dishes, and that they're above, their station is a station above everybody else. And I would allow them that moment of ego if they could back it up with their work ethic.
Yeah.
But they don't.
And I hate to. I mean, you almost feel like you have to walk on eggshells because I think there is some realism to what he's saying. But my thoughts are, if you take Amazon and you take somebody who's maybe into cooking and they're on, you know, Googling things about, you know, what cooks need.
Sure.
Maybe they go down the rabbit hole and they find like some high-end cutlery, and they find I don't know, a steel, a nice coat, and they say deliver, and it's at their door the next day. You know, a lot of times it used to be that you had to kind of acquire those things through some experiences, and now we're clicking buttons, and some things are, you know, some higher-end Japanese knives are showing up where maybe
there.
you might need to go through a sushi restaurant to discover what a high-end Japanese knife was. And then it kind of, you've bypassed all this stuff with no experience. You're sitting there with a tool that you might have no idea how to use. And when you walk into a chef, there's a sense of, maybe pride, or there's ego going on there when you have a nice apron on and you have your headband and your bandana and you feel like you're the rock star.
Sure.
And yeah, there might be a little expectation from a lot of these. And I'm saying that not obviously I'm not pointing fingers at anybody here, but I think I kind of see that, and you can't blame anybody. It's just the way it is now.
The ego game has always been a huge part of the chef psychology. I'll be honest with you.
Chefs have heavy
You
egos.
cannot be most successful restaurateurs And most successful chefs have a type A personality.
Yeah.
They are borderline divas. Sometimes they're just flat out like emotionally retarded. What was his name? The French guy, l'enfant terrible. He was like a big baby, right? He's like the terrible kid but at like 20 something years old, he had like a multi-starred Parisian restaurant. Now, if that doesn't go to your head, then the flock of the media and the publicity and the drugs and the hot chicks and people wanting to like be around you all the time is going to get to you. Sure, but that guy was like way, way, way up at the apex of his life, super early on, kind of like a wunderkind, right? I can guarantee you that nobody who thinks like that guy and acts like that guy in this town has his talent and has his palate.
Right. Yeah.
Pure fact. When I was like 22, 25, and I was working for and I was here in town, and I was working with people, man, I was an ass. We would sit around and we would diss on other restaurants and talk about the cooks and oh, dude, I could do it. It's like the old joke. How many light bulbs does it take? How many lead singers does it take to change a light bulb? 5. 1 to do it and 4 to bitch about it, right? Yeah. It was kind of the same thing, But none of us knew jack shit.
Right.
None of us knew nothing.
Right.
We were just full of our own piss and vinegar and our own ego. And it took a long time and a little growing up to realize, hey, man, if I was as good as I think I am, I would not be where I am.
Right.
I would be someplace significantly different.
That's true. And I really think that's a hard. You said it took some growing up.
It takes a lot of growing up.
So we've got this kind of situation where this guy sees these guys coming out of college or culinary
Cooking school or
they're ready to go, and instead of they might come in with some of their own sign here, chef. This is the deal. Instead of the other way around.
Yeah. They have the passion for it, but the passion is driven by, fulfilling some kind of I don't know, like an ego-tripped, like career. The thing is, though, the really good chefs, like the guys that I work
Tyson
with.
Cole. Where did he start?
Who's that?
Tyson Cole. Where did he start?
So Tyson Cole, as far as I understand, he started as a hotline cook at Mushishino because they wouldn't let him touch the fish because he was a round eye.
Oh, round eye. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And it took them needing somebody.
I had heard he was a dishwasher to start with, but that may be that you may.
He may have started as a dishwasher and then ended up on the hotline.
Right.
But they needed somebody, and
But he didn't get there.
He didn't get there.
And anybody in Austin who knows Uchi or who's been there, and thinks about cooking will have that kind of rock star mentality.
They took a financial risk and they took a cultural risk. And it sounds weird, but we think we're in this big open society and that racism doesn't exist and blah 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 blah, but there's a lot of locked doors to a lot of people depending on what side of the door you're on. And for him to be a white guy in a sushi restaurant, he got very lucky in the sense that someone said, hey, we're going to flip the bill and we're going to send you to train with a master in Japan.
That's cool, yeah.
That's way outside the norm.
Yeah.
Way outside the norm.
Right.
That's why, and of course, that opportunity allowed him to flourish and shine. Now, if he wasn't who he is, then he wouldn't have flourished and shined because he wouldn't have been able to take advantage of that opportunity, and he was.
He was in a unique situation.
And he had the skill set and the palate and the understanding and the imagination, the creativity.
He is who he is.
And he has all those things working for him to allow him to take that experience and move forward. Right. And when they first opened, it was I'm sure he'll probably tell you that hey, are we going to be open in a month? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
And he was probably on the borderline of closing until it was, Condé Nast picked him up and he's chef of the year and he's like all these things. But it did not happen overnight and it did not happen without hard work.
It did not. And, you mentioned, these people, you got to pay your dues, and to sum it up in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And I keep bringing up Anthony Bourdain. We were talking about him the other night, but Kitchen Confidential, came out. And it kind of shined a light into the back of the house and some of the things that go on. But I find it interesting, and I'm about what we're doing specifically, is there was Kitchen Confidential, and then it shot him into kind of superstardom fast enough where then he was traveling the world, and
Right.
it wasn't really about the back of the house anymore.
No.
And so there's been this huge gap, and that's why I kind of like this Austin All Day is like, let's,
Sure.
give these guys a light and or a platform. I hate the word platform, but an opportunity to just get on
Sure.
and talk.
I think when Kitchen Confidential came out, I was working for Peter at Cbone, and Peter had done his training at CIA, and he had done, I think, his like internship programs, whatever, in New York City, and I think it really it seemed to really strike a chord with him. Like he definitely knew what was going on, and he saw these kind of things happening, and it was interesting because Kitchen Confidential came out, and it's not like those things stopped happening. It's almost as if it started happening more because the people who read Kitchen Confidential who weren't in the kitchen, it's almost like they were like, oh, well, here's a way that I can get into that world. And, I've done cocaine off the boobs of naked chicks, and I have seen all kinds of crazy stuff in the back of the house. The restaurant was closed, But with Bourdain, I don't know what his motivation was, but I think
I don't know if there was one. I think he's
there may
just
not,
a poet.
Yeah. I think later, though, he intentionally got away from the back of the house and the stories and decided purposefully to refocus back onto the food.
I brought this up, and I don't really want to focus on this, but I thought it was interesting, and it was the first time, and I just said it out loud, that nobody knows why he's gone, but back of the house, typically, you're not, there's a reason why you're in the back.
Dude, we're all misfits and drug addicts.
Right. And so you take a misfit, a drug addict, a guy like this.
Yeah.
Yes, he's artistic and he's expressing himself, but then we throw him out there.
Yeah.
And my answer, maybe he just couldn't do that anymore.
Him.
I wouldn't be able to
Robin
handle it.
Williams.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times that people in the back of the house, there are like,
Misfits. I really, you got to highlight and put that in bold. It's like a pirate ship. And
it is.
And that's
historically, kitchen help has always been unskilled labor.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I think the 70s, maybe the 80s, that being a chef became like an actual profession. In the big book of professions, like you have architects and you have dentists and you have doctors. Now you're a professional chef.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right.
And you definitely do. Country clubs, hotels. Right. It's very common.
Up until then, being a cook or a chef was very much an unskilled labor market. Mm-hmm. And to this day, if you go in any place, even our joint, you have people there that are there strictly to have a job that they can do because they really don't know how to do anything else. That's just it's what's happened to them, it's what's available to them, and they do it and they send their money home or they pay for their lives. But they don't have any other training, they don't do construction, they don't do whatever.
Right.
Pardon me.
It is a trade, though.
Then there's a bunch of us who are in the trade. Mm-hmm. That being said, those of us that are in the trade, man, it really is a bunch of people who are just misfits.
Yeah.
It's like...
And maybe if we go to this chef bringing up this point, maybe he might know that. You get a bunch of people out of culinary school who kind of feel like the chief,
right?
And maybe you need to be a certain type of a certain type of person that turns into the chief,
right?
And maybe when you see a lot of, like I said, you're one click away from having your
all
whole chef uniform and feeling like you're ready to run the kitchen until you walk in there and you feel like you have these standards, and it's like, well, no, there's a certain type of is it just misfit, the word I'm looking for?
I think,
but
maybe.
You have to, it's almost like self-destructive, a kitchen.
It kind of is. What's really interesting is that, to be a chef, you have to be a leader. And leadership entails a whole aspect of things. You have to understand the people around you. You have to decide what your leadership style is, even if you're not making it a conscious decision. Are you going to be a guy who's like, hey, the toilets are clogged, I'll go unclog the toilet? You guys stay here and clean the fucking beans because we need the beans for service. I don't have time for you guys not to clean beans. I'll go to the toilet.
Yeah.
Somebody else sees that and they say, hey, you know what? Chef cleans the toilet. Well, next time Chef sees me and I have a free moment, the toilet's clogged, I'm not going to say no. It's not going to be beneath my station.
Yeah.
So you can lead by example, or you can just simply coerce people, which is, hey, either you go clean the toilet or you're fired.
Right.
You know, people have to decide when they're leading a kitchen what their style is going to be and how they're going to approach that. If you are someplace like Uchi that has enough cultural capital to enable you to look at people and say, I need you to go outside and jump through 3,700 rings of fire, or you're not going to be able to continue working here for free, people will do it.
Yeah.
I've met a number of people who have done year-long stages.
Okay. It's very common, huh?
Yeah, but like a year, dude.
Yeah, that's
Come on.
I mean, you got to have certain things in place to be able to do that.
The thing is what they're doing is they're weeding out the people who don't have the stamina and the drive to make that place and keep that place a top-tier joint.
Yeah.
Someone shows up and you're like, hey, I need you to work for free for a day. If they say no, you know they're not coming in on their day off.
Right.
You know that when they're cleaning the beans, they're not going to be particular about which end they're chopping off. Are they chopping off the end that was the stem, or are they chopping off the end that you want to look on the plate and have it be pretty? They're not going to pay attention. So being a chef, you have to figure out what your leadership style is and how it fits into where you are. And part of that, you have to figure out who you are. And if you're that misfit, sooner or later, you got to get beyond being the misfit. You got to accept hey, I have my limits and now I need to learn.
Yeah.
And you have to pay attention and watch other people and learn from them.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit about people maybe in bigger, higher end positions where they want to learn more and they actually step down and maybe leave where they're at and go to a different restaurant. Staging in Uchi is a perfect example of something like that for free.
I was, so I started a company a couple of years ago. I was making gluten-free waffles. I had them in a number of restaurants in town and diners, and I was pitching a guy.
Nice.
That was the girl I was seeing at the time. Her brother-in-law was Steven. He's the head chef over at the Hotel Van Zant. And I went over and I was pitching my stuff and whatever, and he was like, do you need a job? And I was like, well, I'd rather, I'd rather build my company than go work for someplace, but, if you have an open position, I wouldn't be afraid of a couple nights a week or something. And he was like, well, hey, why don't you just hang out and stage? I knew I really was going to look for a job, but I took that opportunity, man.
Yeah.
I just stood there online and watched those cats work. And I was amazed at how far behind I was.
It opened your eyes a little.
Yeah, dude. I was looking at what they were making, and I was like, where have I been?
Yeah.
I've been stuck in my hole.
Yeah.
And that's
that happens.
It does happen.
You get comfort. Everybody gets comfortable.
Yeah. And the trade-off there is who was it I was listening to? There was a famous, what's his name? He's from New Orleans. He was a jazz guy. Oh, shoot. He played the piano and sang. He was here a couple of years ago. It was interesting. Someone was talking to him about his musical influences. The guy didn't know how to play a single cover.
Yeah.
He didn't know anything about it.
Right.
All he knew was his own music.
Yeah, yeah.
And on one level, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
If you have a vision and your art and you're doing what you're doing, then you don't need to go learn something else. But at the same time, if you're too myopic on where you are, and you can't step outside and get a broader view, sometimes you miss all these amazing things that are going around that you can incorporate into your work.
Well, just going back to the improv with jazz, I mean, it's the same thing. If this gentleman, his name, no?
Oh, dude, I can't remember. It's a French name, but I can't remember.
But if he learned,
if he had learned a song
right.
by another person, maybe the next song he wrote would have had a little hint of difference.
Yes, in his own way. Wouldn't be...
Which is the power of the stage, man. To be honest with you, it's one thing to go in and sit down and have a dinner.
Yeah.
But it's another thing to go in and watch those guys work and figure out what they're doing. I loved Bullfight. Bullfight's closed now. It's a Spanish restaurant that was on Airport.
Yeah.
And I used to go to that joint.
That was pretty quick there.
Man, I loved it, yeah. People, I will say this about Austin. Austin, I hope you're listening. You guys are so boring. Our
Why?
food.
Because what was the story with Bullfight
So,
closing?
well, I used to like going there and eating, and I really always sat at the bar and watched the kitchen work. I loved watching those guys work and do
Yeah.
their thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you
It's a
could
cool
always,
spot.
you can just gather tidbits of information by observation, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, I think it closed because no matter how open Austin is in their foodie scene to like whatever, Austin is really a very, very square, unimaginative foodie scene that we like.
I don't think you're wrong in saying something like that.
I think our foodie scene and our people who are talking about food, they like variations of the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, they want.
What was Bullfight? What did they?
Bullfight was a Spanish joint, and they did like traditional Spanish food. They did like, what was it like what's the potato dish? I can't remember.
But very well.
But very well, But it was very much like a Spanish restaurant.
Yeah.
They had a big old leg of jamon up there, and if you wanted to get a slice of, jamon, they walked over and they took the knife and they sliced it off and they put it on your table.
Yeah, that's
very
too bad.
Very unpretentious.
Yeah.
I always liked the other Spanish joint over here on South Lamar. What is that joint called? Not Bordello's.
El Chiparron?
No. Barbarossa? No, not Bar. That's a movie. but Barbarella.
South Lamar.
Barbarella is the movie. It's a.
Like not Matt's.
No, not Matt's El Rancho. That's like full on Tex-Mex. Yeah. So it's in one of the. It's in one of the condo buildings they built. It's and maybe it is Barbarossa. Anyway, it's a Spanish place, and I was in there for dinner one day, and I had an opportunity to talk to the chef, and the way it came about was, I ordered the pig's foot. And I was like, I've never eaten a pig's foot.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Right.
It comes out, and it's this really beautiful plate with this little tureen of pig foot meat, trotter meat, and these microgreens, which is just code for sprouts, and this wonderful sauce. And it was delicious, and it was so fantastic. And it was so disappointing because it was not a trotter. I was like, where's my foot? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I had just mentioned it to the bartender, and they were like, I think the chef's here. He'll talk to you. So the chef came out, and I told him my experience. And I was like, man, it's amazing. It tasted great, but I was kind of half expecting to have a foot on my plate. And
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, I can't do that here. He's like, if I was at home in Spain, it'd be nothing for you to walk up to my joint and sit up at the bar and have a glass of red wine and eat a foot. But he's like, here, people don't have the stomach for it. They don't want to know where their food's coming from. They don't want to see that. When La Condesa first opened, they had this amazing dish, roasted Oaxacan cricket tacos. Fantastic, man. Crickets, cilantro, white onions, fresh corn tortillas, and maybe like what was it? Maybe a little sauce. Man, it was good.
Yeah.
So good. It lasted all of like 6 weeks because Austinites aren't going to eat bugs.
It sounds like maybe a trend where Commodore,
Maybe.
It's just opened. It's across from Lonesome Dove. Chef Jeff Beach was in here the other day, and he went to like a soft opening with his children, and they had fried crickets.
Crickets are amazing.
So it may start that way because that was a soft
Right.
opening, but let's see how long.
Let's see how long it lasts.
Yeah.
There's a.
Commodore.
It's
I think
really
Commodore.
It's interesting. There's a strong history of insect eating in the humanity.
Oh yeah, right.
Right.
Well, they say, protein. It's sustainable.
Just totally sustainable. You
Yeah.
can get more crickets out of a square foot than you can get anything, right?
Yeah.
But Americans, and this goes back to being poor people, associate eating insects with being poor. Mm-hmm. We want to eat a filet mignon. You know who eats filet mignon? Rich people.
Right.
Like the king eats deer. The poor guy eats cabbage.
Right.
I think there's a hard line for people to get across because they, we're told bugs are gross and all these other things, but really, man, there's a strong culinary tradition all around the world of eating 6- and 8-legged creatures.
Right.
You go to Morocco and maybe it's like toasted tarantulas, or maybe it's like
that would be nuts.
or maybe it's like the big giant hissing cockroaches, or maybe it's some kind of weird centipede, or if you're in Asia, it's rats. They're not an insect, but they are what we view as like vermin.
Can you imagine if New York started eating rats? It became a delicacy.
So funny story. There's like some Peruvian like food trailer that, like, I guess a guy, a push cart or whatever, a couple years ago was serving like total under the radar Peruvian food.
Yeah.
And Peruvian.
Where was this? In that
this was up in New York, and I want to say
okay.
I don't think it was a food truck, but it was just like a small, like, the impression I got from the interview and the people that were there was that it was like a push cart, kind of like a hot dog cart.
Oh my God,
Right.
where is this going?
Right? And so they were serving like Peruvian food. Well, in Peru, they eat guinea pig. They love guinea pig.
Oh Lord.
Guinea pigs run around the house. They're cute as they could possibly be. They hang out. They're like pets. And then when you get hungry, you snatch one up, you pop off its head, and you cook him up, right?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. Who's going to eat like guinea pig?
Right, yeah.
Right? Not a lot of people.
Even when you
They're
said
too cute.
tarantula, like thinking openly, I'm like, that would be the kind of thing where I'm closing my eyes, hoping for the best. It's an unfamiliar experience,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that we can't get familiarized to
Yeah.
that. And there may come a point in our future as human beings that
We don't have a choice.
Yeah, we're not going to have
Yeah.
much of a choice as to be picky about where our cattle comes from.
Anthropologically speaking, we do ourselves a survival disservice by narrowing
Agreed.
our palate
Oh yeah,
and being like,
Agreed.
oh, I just want to eat bugs.
Oh, absolutely.
Dude, you're out in the woods long enough, you will eat some bugs.
Can you imagine if everyone was just open to everything? What kind of food we'd be seeing? Especially, I mean, when you say bullfight,
Yeah.
closed, yeah, it's interesting.
On the like the fauna,
On a global scale,
Yeah.
they're toned down.
on the fauna level, it's one thing. On the flora level, it's a whole other story. Half the food that we, if you look around Austin, there are agave plants that are growing.
Yeah.
There are pecans out there. There's persimmons out there. There is wild onion. There is, rosemary that's been brought in, transplanted. There are,
Rosemary's a transplant.
yeah, it's not native. There's like native wild potatoes. There's native wild tomatoes. There's all these crazy foods that grow out there that get mowed down and turned into like Bermuda grass because we view them as weeds.
Wow.
But there's a whole community of plants out there that are available for foraging. That like, for example, most of like the big cacti and stuff, especially like you see them on the side of the road, the nopales cactus. It's that big flat leaf cactus with a kind of few spines clustered together, a couple inches apart, and they have like the big white or the big red fruit on top of the prickly pear. Man, that's like nopalito salsa is fantastic. Huge in Mexican cuisine. Americans look at it and we're like, oh, it's just it's just in the way.
Yeah.
Mow it down, get rid of it. It's ugly. No, it's not ugly, dude. It's beautiful. It's food. You can eat the cactus. You can eat the leaf. You can eat the fruit of it. There's so much flora out there that is available to us that we just walk on by because somehow or another it's been ingrained in us that to live that way is to live in poverty. To live sustainably and to live off the land in that way is a poor way to do it.
Yeah.
What's not poor is to pack up your family and move to Alaska and go find a place and suddenly be like, the great white hunter who's like, yeah, I harvest salmon every season and I drop this big giant moose and I drive a 4-wheel drive and I do all these things and, but that requires
That's
a
skill.
financial investment.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be
And when
rich to be able to just
Yeah.
pack your whole family up and move and go buy land.
Oh,
Land
yeah,
ain't
but,
cheap.
but if you do that, I mean, if you're actually living off the land, I mean, you have to be completely invested, and that is not easy.
It is not easy. That was one of my favorite things about working in Alaska was my ability to watch these people who, like, our helicopter, the guy that was our bush pilot, the crew he had at his facility, one of the avionics guys, he dropped this moose. This bull moose must have been, I don't know. He could lay in his rack. He was like 6.5 feet from tip to tip on the inside of the rack. It was a giant bull moose. That thing fed his family for 9 months.
Yeah, yeah.
A single bull moose, family of 4.
So you've had moose.
I've had moose.
Good.
It's all right.
It's all right.
You know, you grind it up and you put it on a burger bun with some onions and, it's fine.
How about 9 months straight?
Didn't have it for 9 months straight.
Right.
I did eat salmon for 3 months straight, and I can tell you after that experience, I
start
didn't eat
smelling a little
salmon.
weird.
Oh man, dude, I didn't eat salmon again for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even look at a fish. I was like, no.
But
Halibut's different. I could eat halibut every day for the rest of my life.
you think that until you do it for 3 months straight.
I could do it for 3 months straight.
Yeah. So salmon, it's good. I mean, in Alaska.
It's fantastic.
Oh wow, that's cool.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fresh run out of the water, right out of the sea. What's cool is we don't get to see, up there we get to see the morphing of the species. They come in, they're bright, they're silver, they're shiny. They got a little bit of sea lice on them. They come in the water. As soon as they hit that fresh water, that brackish water, they start morphing, and they get these big humps on their back, and their jaws get all crazy, and their teeth get wonky, and their coloring changes. And by the time of the end of their lifespan, because as soon as they start changing and morphing,
Yeah.
because they're spawning, they stop eating. And so from that point on, their only drive is like swim upstream and reproduce. And
Right.
by the end of their life cycle, they are black and yellow. Their eyes are pecked out by the seagulls, and they're swimming with like one fin and a body covered in like the grossest fungus you could ever see. And they're just like zombies. And they're just still like, gotta lay more eggs, gotta drop more semen, gotta lay more eggs. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Totally inedible. Even the bears won't touch them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tide goes out, the tidal flat dries out, and you're just walking across bodies.
What's this fungus like?
It just looks like, if you've ever seen a sick fish in a fish tank that's covered in that weird, like, kind of like translucent furry fungus.
And they just keep going.
They just keep going.
It's in their nature.
It's in their nature. They're just driven. They just go until their little hearts give out. And the seagulls are pecking their eyes out and doing all kinds
That
of.
is crazy.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
very
cra-
bizarre.
That is crazy. That is what you need to do when you start as a dishwasher. Just keep going like a salmon upstream.
Just keep going like a salmon upstream.
until you're, pecked eyes out. You're leading the kitchen,
That is one.
and no one will touch you.
And no one will touch you. That is one thing I would tell anybody who's coming up in the kitchen is to not limit themselves to working in a restaurant in the United States to be famous. You know what I mean? Given the opportunity, your skill set can take you anywhere in the world.
Yeah,
You can go anywhere. You can go work in. I went up and worked on the Aleutian Peninsula. I've been up there like 5 times, man. I spend 3.
Okay.
I'll take some more, please. I'll do upwards of 120 days straight. No days off. Pitch it. Build a camp, break a camp down, feed people every day, day in, day out. You can go to South America. You can go anywhere. If you really are passionate about your cooking and your craft,
Right.
you can go anywhere, and you can do it.
Sadly, if what you might learn there and you bring it back to here, Austin,
Oh, it may be totally like without application.
might be, but the what you'll learn, and who knows where
Yeah.
we're going to go here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what kinds of doors might open. But I think that's interesting. Austin being a little square, its food scene.
It is. What's cool though is that even if you go someplace and you pick up a bunch of information that is not directly and immediately applicable to being in Austin,
Jazz.
you can still slide it in there in the background.
Right, right.
A little nuance.
Well, Joseph was here yesterday, Contigo Catering.
Right.
He's from New Zealand. He's got meat pies on the menu at Contigo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that's a New Zealand staple.
It's a very English thing in general.
Okay, yeah.
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 Everyone loves a meat pie.
Right. Well, yeah, I've never had one.
Really?
I've never had one.
You ever had an empanada?
Yeah.
So it's a meat pie.
Okay, all right. So I guess I have then.
It's just a different version of the meat, but you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
meat stuffed in something and then wrapped up in
Yeah. We've all had that
Yeah.
in one way or another. Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Yeah, you can go anywhere if you know how to cook. If you really want to use your skill set.
And you know this through some experience. And I love the conversation we're having. And I'm in this kind of I have this momentum behind me of asking about people because that's basically this podcast is to be a conversation piece for chefs in general. but a lot of it's been like biographical because
Sure.
I'm not sure a lot of guys know what to expect.
Right.
But so Alaska, let me just ask, where else have you worked? I mean, because that's interesting.
Okay, so like the short story is latchkey kid learns to cook. My first real experience with cooking was
And this is in Kansas.
in Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay.
I was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas. I got an older brother. He's about 4.5 years older than me. Back in the day when you took home ec, which is home economics,
Yeah.
it was kind of like a crossover with your foreign language classes. And so one year they had to make crepes. It was like French week or whatever in school.
Interesting.
And so my mom had purchased this Teflon coated electric crepe pan that you took the cover off and it had a recipe on one side. You turned it upside down. It formed like a basin that you would make the crepe batter in. You would dip the Teflon pan into it and raise it up. It would drip off. You turn it back on its stand, let it sit there for a minute, and then you would have a crepe.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Crepes are amazing.
Yeah.
They're just fucking fantastic. They're
And,
just
and
the
what
beautiful-
age was that?
I was probably around 8.
And alone, learning that.
Yeah, well, I was with my mom and my nuclear family, like me, my mom, my dad,
Yeah,
my
I
brother.
mean, you're not alone, but
Yeah, but I was like watching my brother, and I'm like, I'm doing this with him and my mom. And the beautiful thing about the crepe is that it's basically just the French form of every other culture's flatbread.
yeah.
You have in Mexico, you have like tortillas. In Armenia or whatever, you have lavash. In like the Jewish cultures, you've got what are they called? The matzah. I mean, there's all over the world. There's flatbreads of some sort.
Right.
So I figured out hey, this is cool, and you can do this. And then I went to I learned how to make French toast, which is basically just dipping toast in the batter, essentially, that you use to make crepes.
Right.
Hey, clever, fucking French guys. And then I learned that you can make French fries by taking potatoes. Well, we ran out of French fries, like the old ride in the bag. We ran out of them, and I was like, oh, well, they're just potatoes. So I chopped up a potato, and I took a big bowl of like grease drippings my mom had on the stove, and I heated it up, and I deep fried the potatoes in the grease, and figured out I could deep fry potatoes, and just, oh wow,
That's
look
a
at
good
this.
thing to figure out.
I could make French fries. I lived
Yeah.
on French fries forever. Started there. My favorite childhood snack, if it wasn't, this is so gross, white bread with butter and sugar, was like my go-to sandwich.
To be honest, it doesn't sound that gross.
It's amazing. It's not good for you if you're a child.
Oh
it's
my
like
God,
it's like
no.
pure sugar energy. And my dad was always wondering, like, why is our kid so wacky? I'm like, well, it's probably
Butter and sugar.
yeah, it's probably the Wonder Bread with the white sugar, the refined sugar, and the butter.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Hard fried egg sandwich with mustard. I learned how to cook eggs really early. And, I just went on and on. In high school, I got a job. First job was at a Pizza Hut. Kind of learned how to make pizzas.
So from the get-go, food.
From the get-go, food. Next job was like working in an Italian restaurant. I made dinner for like prom when I was a senior. My first dish was a shrimp and clam carbonara. We had a salad, and we had like asti spumante, because we were fancy.
Yeah.
And then I went off to, I graduated high school. I moved to Colorado. I needed a job. I ended up working at a Tex-Mex joint, Chili's, and then figured out I was not going to, my major was marine biology. Figured out early on I was not cut out to do like science. Like I was terrible at chemistry.
So it wasn't so much the actual school structure. It was
No.
just
I was terrible at chemistry.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I was not passing chemistry. I don't
Okay.
care how many times I took the class. I was not passing chemistry. I did it in high school, and I took a college level in high school, but it wasn't like it wasn't actual college level stuff. And so, I ended up cooking, and then I came back to Kansas City, and I ended up working at a
Let
mom.
me pause you for one
Roger
second.
that. There's a
Okay. You were at Kansas City.
So yeah, so I ended up working at this great little place called Otto's Malt Shop. It was we were on the corner of what used to be like a service station. We shared a space with a vintage shop, and we did malts from scratch, and we did sodas from scratch. So technically, I was a soda jerk during certain days of the week. I made malts during the other days of the week. I was a kitchen manager. We did the typical stuff like, burgers and chicken fried steak. We were open super late,
Right, yeah.
all that jazz. And of course, I was playing music at the time, and the guys I was jamming with, we all hated our hometown, and we needed to change, and this place sucked. Let's move to Austin. So we packed up the U-Haul, and we drove our happy asses. Well, I drove down here, and everyone followed, and we were going to be a big band, and that totally did not work out.
What were you doing in the band?
I was playing bass.
Playing bass.
I was playing bass. So we lived actually not too far from here, over off of William Cannon, and to support the band habit, we all had to have jobs. Well, some of us had to have jobs. Some of us had parents. Those of us who had jobs ended up getting jobs. So I ended up working at Bertram's, and eventually, the youthful exuberance and the alcohol just did not lead to success, and the band split up, and I just kept working.
Yeah.
And I ended up working at Bertram's. I worked there for a year. And then the sous chef, guy by the name of Alex, he got an opportunity to go down and open up a restaurant in the Florida Keys at a place called Murata Bay. And so he asked me if I was interested. Sort of. What happened was I helped another guy move down there. And while I was down there, Alex was like, hey, do you want to stay and open a restaurant? And I was like, yeah, man. So I stayed down there for...
What do you think about Florida?
Florida.
The Florida Keys.
Florida's a nightmare, but the Keys are amazing.
Yeah.
Florida is just Florida's basically Texas with a much bigger coast and more gators.
I've not heard that said that way.
It's very much like East Texas. It's all very much East Texas.
But the Keys are...
The Keys are fantastic.
Yeah.
We were about halfway down Isla Morada. They have a giant sport fishing tournament there every year. It's like one of the largest in the world.
Sure.
One of my favorite memories was Alex did not get along with the owner. I guess Alex had gotten his reference because he was a friend or a roommate of the owner's ex-wife in college. And so when he opened this place up, Alex had gotten the job, but he did not get along with Hubert. And one day Hubert came in with a shit ton of tuna and mahi and just flopped it on the floor of the kitchen, was like, chef, clean my fish, and I'll tell you what, though, we cleaned that fish because there is nothing tastier than fresh caught tuna right out of the water, man.
Yeah,
we cleaned it and then we ate it. But you can't eat the whole thing because they weigh 65 pounds, man. You're not eating the whole thing.
That's amazing.
Learned to cook. That was my first introduction to cooking up roe sack. Roe is fantastic. We eat it as caviar, whatever roe it is, Tobacco roe, whatever. Sturgeon roe, but when they're in the sack, man, you can saute them up and just squeeze a little lemon or lime on top, and it's really, really good, dude.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic.
What would you compare that to?
It's almost like it's been a long time since I've had it, but I remember it being like a cross between popcorn and scrambled eggs.
Ooh, interesting.
If you can imagine,
I can
a popcorn and scrambled eggs. Hybrid.
I think I'm so quick on imagining that because my daughter's always wants popcorn and scrambled eggs. It's like a regular thing with her.
It's great. So and they're in their little and these are mahi. This is like mahi roe. So the dolphin fish mahi. Two different head shapes depending on the male and the females and the time of the year and all that jazz. These are obviously during the breeding season, so you can tell distinctly by their forehead slope which one's a male, which one's a female. Pull out the roe sack, cook them up. It was really, really fantastic. That lasted for 6 months.
Interesting flavor.
Yeah. Okay. The girl I was seeing at the time, we were going to get married. She was living with me. We set a date, and when we left the Keys, I went to Chicago. She's from Chicago. She's from out in the burbs. She was from Oak Brook.
Oak Brook. I'm familiar.
So we ended up there. Her friend, Kara, her best friend in high school, was married to the chef I worked for at Bertram's. And so when we came back down, I went back to work with Peter at his restaurant. In between his restaurant, right when I got back into town, I ended up working at a place called the Empanada Parlor. Ash Correa was an interesting woman. She was married to a professor at UT. She, I believe, had a culinary degree from the Cordon Bleu, and I think she had a bachelor's from the London School of Economics. She was a super smart, super bright lady.
Yeah.
But she had a place here called the Empanada Parlor,
Yeah.
and all we made was empanadas. And then in the nighttime, we had like dinner service. So we did like half chickens and that kind of thing. Real simple kind of English fare. It is the space that is now Easy Tiger
Oh, well, on 6th Street.
on 6th Street.
And Easy Tiger's
Yeah.
blowing up like a
Like huge.
A nuke,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
got everything you need. It's got beer and pretzels and fresh bread. And
the new
yeah.
Link. Have you
Yeah.
seen that? Yeah.
Yeah. So I worked there. And then after that, I went to, Peter gave me a call. I was back in town. I went to work for him, and I was doing, it was really cool because we were very small and we had a little garden. And this is like really the beginning of the slow foods movement. So I was gardening, and I was doing pastries, and I was helping operate the restaurant, like doing lunch by myself in the daytime and doing the sauces in the daytime. And then the night crew would come in, and sometimes I'd work nights and sometimes I wouldn't. And then I also worked at a place called the High Time Tea Bar and Brain Gym, which is now where, what would that be? That would be Elizabeth Street Cafe is at, the Noodle House, the Vietnamese
yeah.
joint.
It's a good spot, too.
So that place used to be far more rundown and much more like basic
Yeah. Now
and
it's a little-
unimproved.
Yeah.
And it was a place called the High Time Tea Bar and Brain Gym. And I worked there for a year. And we basically did, again, this would be like when Alice Waters had just published like her Chez Panisse cookbook, and the slow food thing was cooking on. We had a garden. Actually, I made the dirt for the garden because I had worked at Gardenville, which is now Dromgool's Natural Garden out of Old Bee Caves Road. I made the dirt, brought the dirt in. We planned a garden. We were doing our lunch specials out of the garden. Not a high volume place, so
but that's cool.
A half a dozen squash blossoms go a long way. We were doing like these crazy brain tinctures, like hibiscus tea infused with ginger and a shot of ginkgo biloba in it. And you would do a shot. I remember we had one really crazy clientele. What was it? The client? What was his name? Stuart. Stuart would come in. He was a music producer and an engineer, and he worked as the house engineer at Willie's place out there in Lakeway for a number of years. And
Is that still there?
that is still there, as far as I know.
That's a studio?
The studio, yeah. Arlen
Okay.
Studios, I think that was the name of it.
Okay.
So he was like the head engineer at Arlen, and he recorded, I think he had recorded like, I know he did like the Reverend Horton Heat. I went out to visit him one time when they were out there, and they had just finished up with the Reverend Horton Heat, and he had worked with like Sublime, and he'd worked with King Coffee, who was the drummer for the Butthole Surfers.
Oh, cool.
And done all these things. But he came in every day with a habanero, and every day we had to figure out a new way to feed this guy a fucking habanero pepper. Every day.
Oh.
He's like, he'd show up. Here's my habanero. What are you gonna do with it? I'm like, I don't know, man. So, like one day we dip it in chocolate, another day we chop it up and put it in his eggs.
Oh my goodness!
Right?
A habanero and chocolate. I have the unfortunate for me. I juiced a habanero once before.
Dude, I don't know why you would ever do that, but
Oh my god!
I just leave them alone. I just look at them. They're beautiful.
You can do what cayenne, like for a little kind of kick.
Yeah.
And I was stepping it up. I remember I incorporated jalapenos into juice. You know,
Yeah,
and
so-
it wasn't just a habanero, but like there's apple beet, whatever.
Yeah, but-
and one day I decided that habanero would be, the good kind of boost for me, and it was
Yeah, so
not.
like heat units levels, whatever those things are called. I forget what they're called. There's a heat unit level.
Scovilles and
Yeah,
is that what they're called?
it's, yeah,
Scovilles?
something like that. It's
something.
it's significantly higher than a jalapeno.
Oh, I mean, I was on my way to work, and I did that. As I'm going to be healthy and have a juice here, and it's going to have some heat.
You're lucky you didn't like poop your pants.
I was hiccuping and it for a long time. It was pretty bad. Yeah.
I believe it.
Oh yeah,
Stuart,
never did that again.
Yeah,
obviously.
Stuart was an interesting guy. He was always beet red, and I think it's because he ate a habanero every morning.
I was going to say.
he was always beet red.
Oh my gosh,
So I worked there.
that's very interesting.
I still have my shirt. It's great. It says High Time Tea Bar and Brain Gym.
Yeah.
Whenever I wear it, people are like, it's like a blue, like a kind of like a service station shirt with like a patch on it, and people are like, "Oh my god, you work at High Time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's not the magazine. It's not
I get
right.
Yeah,
It's not as cool as it sounds." So I worked there, and I worked at Seabone. I worked. God, where else have I gone? I did a stint at Vespio one year after Alaska.
They're going through some changes now. It looks like the chef bought Vespio. Did you hear about that?
I don't. When I was there was a blonde cat. He was a CIA grad, and he was a partner, and he was a chef, and he was partnered in.
Okay.
The guy Hubert who owned the Murata Bay and the Moorings, which is the super high end white beach like place in the Keys. He's buddies with one of the cats that was partnered in at a Vespio.
Yeah.
And I left on bad terms with my buddy Alex when I quit my job in the Keys. And when Hubert looked at me and he's like, well, asked me what was going on, I told him. And he was like, well, what about us? And I was like, well, chances are, you're just fucked, dude. You just got to get over it, And I think that left a bad taste in his mouth because he came into the restaurant and I think he recognized me. And within 2 days, I was fired.
Oh, wow.
I could have been. What they told me was when I had done the display case that's out front at Vespio when you walk in, there's like the display case.
Yeah.
When I had done the display case, I had put out some pate or something that was like not good, and somebody had like gotten some bad pate. But I was like, listen, man. Whatever the reasons are, I used the pate that was in date. So if I were you, I'd go back through your inventory and check your dates.
Right.
No harm, no foul. I was working there like 1 day a week, not a big deal. But it was a good experience. That one day I was there, I had to clean a pig and do all this other stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I was going to ask, how was it?
It was a good experience. A lot of hard work. They expect you to fit 12 hours of work and do about a 6-hour day.
Yeah. And they just expect that.
They just expect that. They've got more guys in that space than they need to have. That you're sharing a space with Tekka. Everyone's scrambling. If you want to. We're making 50 gallons of tomato sauce, and you're trying to fit this giant.
All right there.
All right
there. Commissary.
All right there. You're trying to fit this big bucket of tomato sauce in an ice bath, and the guy from next door is like, "I need the sink because I need to do this," and it's a nightmare.
Well, yeah. Sounds like it.
I worked there for a bit. I did a stint in Alaska. I've been up there 4 times working for Epic Angling and Adventure. Fantastic boutique fly fishing company. If you're into fly fishing, Epic is the way to go. Shout out to Epic Angling and Adventure. I ran a kitchen at a sorority house for 5 years. Here in town, the Alpha Epsilon Phi at 25th and Rio Grande.
Okay.
That was a fantastic experience. Super easy. 12 months a year, and you get paid for 12, but you only work about 8 because you're following the collegiate schedule. So you're off in the summers, and you're off for like spring break, and you're off for Christmas break. And
Legitimately off.
Legitimately off.
Ooh, that's
I
nice.
Legitimately had 4 months a year where I did not work.
That's hard to beat.
The hardest part was when the fall came around. You started up in mid July, early August basically. Kids start moving back in, so you have to go in, open up the kitchen that's been shuttered for a couple months, get everything undusted, wash everything, do all that stuff. During rush week or the week before rush, you've got to feed all the girls who are putting together skits and stuff so they can recruit the new recruits. During rush week, you're feeding them plus all the other girls that are coming through.
All the kind of extracurricular.
All the stuff. So, we're doing 3-4 meals a day for anywhere between 100 and 300 people. And then you're off to the races, and we do breakfast in the morning, continental breakfast in the morning, and we do sack lunches for their lunches, and then we did a sit-down family-style dinner at nighttime, but you were always off by 7. And when, there were major holidays, you got those days off.
Yeah.
But again, when Christmas break came around, everybody left. You had a month at Christmas where you were just off for 30 days.
Man, that's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Super unchallenging.
Yeah.
You can do it for a certain amount of time.
How do you mesh with that?
If you put yourself in the right mindset and you do it and you don't have any other goals or expectations, it's easy. But once you get to the point that you say to yourself, is this all I'm good for?
Yeah.
Am I just a sorority house cook?
Yeah.
Is this all I'm capable of?
Yeah.
Then I think maybe the bug starts to bite at you.
Right.
And I'll be honest, the first couple of years, it's not a big deal, but by the end of that, you realize that you're basically dealing with the same psychological profile of every next year's girls coming in, and so you're always constantly dealing with basically a very entitled, hyper needy 18-year-old girl every year.
Yeah.
Every year. And it doesn't stop. It's like once you get through the year and these kids have grown and they've matured a little bit and you're like, oh, they're actually human beings, you go back to the beginning and you get a bunch of more people who come in who stomp their feet because they're not getting their way.
Yeah, yeah.
And you go through that year and then you come back to the beginning and you got a bunch more girls who are stomping their feet because they're not getting their way.
Right.
Yeah. And it's super repetitive and it feels like you're stuck in a time loop.
Yeah, no, that's not good for
But
anybody.
The 30
Not
days
a
off
chef.
is great.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And at the time, my daughter was born. So that first summer, it was like, I had like basically 3 months off in the summertime that I spent every day with my newborn daughter.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's fucking badass.
Yeah.
And I did that for a couple of years while I was working there. So, by the time, she was old enough to be on a bike with me at like 2 or 3, in the summertime, we were like tracking down pools because Daddy didn't have to go to work.
Yeah, that's
Daddy
cool.
just had to collect a check.
That's awesome. You start a family and you're still a chef and you're still cooking and you have the opportunity to actually be with your child.
That's a hard row to hoe if you're a restaurant owner. And I would tell anyone out there, if you want to have a family and you want to be a chef, I suggest that you have a really good game plan and you get all your ducks in a line.
Can't imagine missing out on.
You don't want to miss out on a childhood.
You don't, and people do. I don't
they
think.
do.
I don't even think people do it. Obviously, not with the intentions to do it, but I think sometimes it just happens. Because life is happening.
Life happens
very
all the
quickly.
day.
Right.
Was it John?
1 year, 2
What is
year.
it John Lennon said? Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I worked for Peter, he had a little boy, and you own your own restaurant. Peter would have to get up and he'd go to work at like noon. So he'd have some morning time with his kid, but then he was at the restaurant until midnight and the kid was asleep. And, they always had Kara was always at the front of the house and she's like, she's working. So, for as hard as they had to work, they didn't get to spend all that quality time they could have with their kid because they're independent business owners. And I think that's really a detriment to the psyche of any child. Kids need their parents, especially early on when they're young.
It is. I also think that, along back with like the self-destructive, nature of like a chef or a line cook in a kitchen, I think that like stays with, chefs.
Yeah.
And they have the ability to maybe it's not at that point, it's not just self,
Right.
you've got a kid there.
Right.
But, you're missing out on things and, it's almost like, it's hard. It's hard, but you do it. You're passionate. There's
And in a way, you're trapped into it. You can't if you're a restaurateur and you own the joint. If you're a chef owner, you can't just fuck it, I'm not going to work today.
Right. But there's a weird thing that
yeah.
makes it feel justified or okay. Right. But then there's like this sad song in the back. You know what's happening, but then it'll just happen if you don't plan it out, like you're saying.
You gotta have your ducks in a row, man. You gotta know that hey, something's got to give. Either I'm gonna raise my restaurant or I'm gonna raise my kid.
Kids
and restaurants are children, by the way. If anyone doesn't know this, let me tell you right now, restaurants are children. Okay. They are temperamental and they don't behave for the first they may even not survive childhood for like the first 7 years.
Yeah.
And then they kind of come into their own,
right.
And they seem to have a mind, and then you can kind of give them more responsibility. And then when they're 14, they start rebelling again.
Yeah.
And that's why if you look around town, all the really, really successful restaurants, they're multi-generational. Matt's El Rancho, it's been there for 50 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Chez Nu, one of my favorite places in town. I love Chez Nu. That place is there because that place has gone through all these weird growing pains and it's survived. And it is those people's life. And at the same time, it's more than their life. It's
Right.
like their livelihood, it's their life, it's their child, it's part of their identity. And those kind of joints, those places last. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of these places that we love, like, oh my God, I love my new restaurant, it's fantastic. You'll be lucky if that place is there in 5 years.
No, that's a very interesting and important point. We've got places that have been around forever. I have to ask, when you go out to eat, where is it? Share.
Yeah,
Because we have
yeah.
a small audience listening,
Sure.
so you're not going to give anything too crazy away.
You know, I tell people, so of course, going out to eat depends on like all kinds of crazy facets, like
course.
what you want. If I'm in the mood for like sushi, I go to Musashino. I like Musashino. I like their vibe. They've moved over here to like I think they're off of 34th Street now.
Okay.
I haven't been to the new joints. They moved a couple of years ago. That tells you how often I go out. I like them. When I'm like, if it's
But
me,
you're a family man.
yeah, if it's me and my girlfriend and we're going out and we
Yeah.
like want to pull that vibe, we definitely go to like Justine's.
Okay.
I love those cats. My meals are there, you know, or like meals anywhere. You're always hit or miss. You know,
Right.
nobody's perfect. You can't expect if you expect a meal to be perfect every time you go someplace, you have not only lofty expectations, you have unrealistic expectations.
Right.
But in general, I like their menu. I like what they do. They do really good standards. I like the mussels and I like the steak and frites, the steak and fries, and the frites. They've got a decent wine list. They have a Chateauneuf de Pape I like.
And that's only dinner, right?
That's only dinner, and I
On the
love
east
Chateauneuf
side
de
over
Pape.
there?
Yeah, so and it's only like Tuesday through Sunday or whatever it is, and it's after 5. And they fill
Yeah.
up fast, but that place is so sexy.
Yeah.
That place is so sexy.
Yeah.
If I can go, so I like Justine's, I like Musashino, Happy Hour. I really like El Chile over on Manor Road. It's a little Mexican joint. They got a great ceviche and like a really good like white queso and like house margaritas on the like super cheap like during
Is it with
happy hour.
the yellow? No.
It's like a green. Let's see, it's a white sign with a
Red writing?
maybe like a greenish border or something. I don't know.
Okay.
It's over there. It's right off of Manor.
Does he
though.
have multiple locations?
I don't know. I think they're the same people that own the place across the street, like El Sapo, the burger joint or something like that, whatever
Okay.
that is.
All right.
I like their happy hour. I love Shanu. I love Shanu.
Right,
Shanu
okay.
is one of my favorite joints, man. Like
Nice.
I love Shanu. You can't go wrong with those cats. Unfortunately, I don't get to eat out as much as I'd love to.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
And to be honest with you, I work at the counter and we're a breakfast joint, and I'm glad we're not open at dinner. But at night, when I want to go someplace, I really want to go to the counter. It's just
yeah.
it's just not available to me. I mean, because we have a really broad menu. You can go in there and you can get a steak and fries with a salad, or you can get some breakfast and pancakes. I don't do breakfast for dinner. I am adamantly and very staunchly of the opinion that it's called breakfast because it breaks the fast,
But what
which is an overnight event. And if you're eating
go.
breakfast for dinner, then you're stupid. So,
but the children, no eggs. I want French toast dinner time. No,
you know what?
No.
I'm not having that. And I really this is 100% internal
I
bias.
heard the father. I'm not having that.
This is all 100% bias, man. My dad, when it was like, my dad was a scrambled eggs and ketchup for dinner. Like, oh, I'm making dinner tonight. It's scrambled eggs and ketchup. It was either scrambled eggs and ketchup or it was liver and onions.
That might be why you don't.
Oh,
do
it is 100%
Why?
I don't do breakfast and dinner. It's also 100% why I don't eat livers and onions.
Yeah.
It's fucking gross.
Yeah, maybe highly nutritious, but yeah,
Not doing it. So, I like Shanu. I like Justine's. El Chile is fantastic. I like Vespaio. I like Italian food. I don't eat Italian food as much anymore because they're really heavy on the pastas, and I don't do a lot of pasta anymore. So I stay away from a lot of Italian food, although I love...
with diet or just choice? Or
So I have arthritis and a few other inflammatory issues, and so eating heavy amounts of like flour and stuff affects that.
Okay.
So I stay away from the pastas.
arthritis from a knife?
Dude, arthritis from my grandmother who had a rheumatoid. Like
Okay.
I just like if you look at my fingers, your listeners can't see them, but if you can imagine Bela Lugosi playing,
Yes, I see. Yeah.
Dracula and like giving you the freaky come on, it's like that's what it is. Dude.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not double jointed. I just have arthritis.
Wow, yeah.
I love Italian food though.
How is that with a knife? All
You
good?
know, as long as I keep my knife sharp, you don't have to use any effort at all.
Right, right.
And when I watch people in the kitchen struggling to like chop and do stuff, I always tell them, your tool's not sharp enough.
A proponent of sharp knives.
Yeah,
obviously. It makes your day so much different when you come in with a laser sharp knife. I
Yeah.
mean, if you need to plow through a bag of onions,
No time at all.
it's totally different when
Yeah.
there's not a lot of effort. It just requires
If
the
you're
skill.
using your hand and your forearm muscles to chop vegetables, your knife is dull.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because the only thing you should be using is the weight of the knife with the little like control from the wrist. It should just like slice through.
And not to mention the quality of like the cut. Like you're not
Yeah.
making thinly sliced cuts with
No.
a dull blade.
No. And at this point in time, most people
Agreed.
can't do a thinly sliced cut anyway because we have mandolins.
Mandolins.
Yeah,
Those are
the tools of the trade, man. Like why
The mandolin, side note, just recently updated. Have you seen the new Ben Reiner mandolin?
I have not.
Oh,
Is it the Japanese style or the French style? Which is like
forget the French style. We're talking about new stuff, right? That's the big metal honking, $200 mandolin. No, not
that thing's amazing.
The $30 Ben
It has
Reiner.
a waffle setting,
Yes, it does.
so you can make waffle fries.
Yeah, no, and it may be the only thing that's good for it. Okay, enough harping on that. But the Ben Reiner is the Chinese or the Japanese, whatever, the little green mandolin everybody's
Right.
seen. Now it is that pale,
Pale
offset,
yellow.
yeah,
Yeah. Kind of
But-
creamy.
So that's the only color I've seen this in. But it's got a crank on it. It's got a little like cutouts for hooking it out of Cambro. It's got like a little matte finish on the bottom, so you can set it on a table. And
Are you telling me they made it user friendly?
It's like they updated a phone. They updated the mandolin.
It's almost as if they decided, like, hey, how are people using this? And let's make it usable.
And it is so
Because I
usable.
love a mandolin, but it is a nightmare to use unless you figure out how to use it because it is not sturdy.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful,
So these new ones,
that's great.
they address all that. The only issue, and it may be just an issue for someone like because I'm giving people blades for these
Right.
things.
It still takes off fingertips.
It takes off fingertips if you're used to a dull mandolin or something, and then you give someone a sharp mandolin.
Yeah.
Whew, that
Yeah.
can be nasty. But actually, the small mandolin blade, you can replace the blades. The new blade has two circles that the screws grow through
Right.
to hold it into place.
Right, okay.
The old version, the screws actually just get clamped down by.
Right.
So I don't know if they thought that through because there's so many people that are going to be maybe ordering new blades,
Right.
and they're not going to.
Well, I will say a shout out to all the listeners out there. For all you newbies, when you're using a mandolin,
Hear it out.
use the palm of your hand and keep your fingertips up.
Oh yeah, unless you
Yeah.
want a little added iron into your whatever it is that you're cutting.
It makes it tasty. And don't use the tar guard. That's that crazy plastic thing that you're supposed to put on top of the vegetables.
That's recyclable, I think.
It could be. I like to just drill holes in them and hang them randomly around the restaurant or in
That's
my
a way
house.
to do it. That's a way to do it.
Call it modern art, but yeah.
mandolins are.
No, they're a time saver.
It's so far up the, like, sure, 8-inch chef knife you need. Right. There's certain things that you need. Mandolin is up there.
You
If
know
you
what?
really want to start cooking, you just.
You should have a mandolin. I'll tell you another one that's
Think
hard
about making a salad.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like if
with
you,
the julienne little strips in there.
boom.
And you're a professional, you feel good.
It's up there along with, you'd be really surprised at how important it is to have a really good quality potato peeler.
Yeah, but do you prefer like the serrated one that really doesn't go blunt?
We
or-
have one at work that is, I can't find a replacement for it anywhere. It's chrome, it's basically stainless steel, and it has two blades. It has a serrated on one side and a traditional flat on the other.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is like the golden goose. You know,
It probably is. Be
It's-
careful with that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. If you need a julienne like carrots or something
Yeah.
on the fly, so when we do like our chopped salad, we do julienne carrots on top. But who has the space or goes through enough? Like we don't have the space or go through enough julienne carrots to like just julienne a bunch of carrots. So we use this thing to like shred like some carrots for the salad. It's fantastic as long as it doesn't go through certain processes. And by the way, for the listeners out there, don't run your knives or anything you're using to cut food through the dishwasher. Just saying.
Yeah.
Hand wash your blades.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
keep your stuff sharp by not putting it through the caustic chemical peel of an industrial dishwasher.
And there's so many other things. You know, if you have
Yeah.
a decent handle, I mean, some knives will take it, but I mean, it's getting, battered
No.
around in there with other knives.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. But, if you have a wood handle on a knife.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
And hey, don't wash your shoes in the dishwasher either. Some people, man, I had a pastry chef one time. She washed her basically like her rubber burks
Yes.
through the dishwasher. And
The nerve.
I was like, I heard about it and I was just like, oh, it's fucking disgusting.
You're like for a second, you're like, it's a good idea.
You know, if
And
it's
then
the
you're
end of the night after you've done the hood filters,
But still, there's really no.
there's really no recourse there.
Anybody who's ever had like their shoes in the back of a vehicle overnight
Oh, man.
and opens the door, it's
Yeah.
like something died. And you
Yo.
really might think that.
I triple wrap mine. They go inside of a plastic bag, inside of a plastic bag, inside of a plastic bag.
and when you open that,
I can still smell them.
oh yeah, you can
Yeah,
smell it. You
yeah.
you put your head back
Oh,
3
yeah,
feet.
I know what's happening.
Yeah.
When I was at UT, one of my classes I took was a anthropology and food course, and we had to put together a cookbook for the class. Fantastic! It was amazing. We got stuff, everything from like third and fourth generation recipes that people had and they're passed down from like family member to family member. We had all this amazing information, and the one thing I did was I made sure to leave an intro like, hey, this is the cookbook. Here's what you don't do. You don't keep your knives in a drawer, and you don't run your knives through the dishwasher. And if you don't use your knife, it will be as dull as if you kept it in a drawer or you run it through the dishwasher. You
Right.
have to use whatever that tool is that you're using as a professional. You have to maintain it, and it makes your life so much easier.
Oh yeah.
So much easier.
Yeah.
And so many home cooks and so many professional cooks, they don't even know. It's like I really believe, anthropologically, we come from a place where we used to flint stones to drop and carve animals. You make a spearhead, or you make some kind of flint point that you put on a projectile to drop your animal.
Yeah.
And then we used either microliths to harvest grasses, and we had these big hand liths that we would use to like carve animals and like clean the skin off of them and all that stuff. All these guys knew to keep their rocks sharp.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many guys and gals that come into the kitchen that have gone through culinary school or not gone through culinary school, or they've been working for 20 years or working for 2 months, and it's ubiquitous, man. It's like none of them maintain their knives.
Yeah,
And I don't understand.
I pretty much found that in my own personal situation was that a lot of people don't know how to maintain their knives, and I only stumbled about how to maintain my own knife because I got really into it.
Right.
And then I started to learn about it, but like nobody really. What I was taught how to hone a knife.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
Things
that's
like
not the same thing as laying a new edge.
no
Honing a knife is just maintaining the edge you
Yes.
already have.
And believe me, you can't hone a knife forever.
No,
You-
you have to lay a new edge eventually.
Right, yeah, and there's a lot that goes into creating a new edge or a new you got the angle you need
Right.
you need to develop a burr.
Yeah.
But that's always been my one thing. If you don't get a burr, you don't get anything.
Right.
The burr is the single most important thing that you will ever, and it needs to be across the entire blade.
Right.
And the other thing I've always said is just stay. If you choose to stay here and start here, just stay there.
So
Don't lay your knife down a little bit more or raise it up a little bit more to get the burr.
right.
But the fundamental and a lot of people don't know what the burr is, but it's just, when you start sharpening one side of the blade, the metal needs to kind of fold over onto the other side of the knife, and you can feel it physically with your finger.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing.
It's that roll.
It's a roll, yeah, and you can feel it.
And so we're back to poor people. Because you know who takes care of their knives? Poor
Butchers.
people and
Yeah,
butchers.
yeah.
People who use their stuff. Like Paleolithic hunter-gatherers, they did not have dull tools.
Right,
Their
and
life
that's-
depended on it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Poor people. Like you go, like, there's, it's funny. If you go out to like a third world country and you might walk into some shabby restaurant or a shabby butcher's or abattoir of some sort, and some guy is using some crazy piece of steel in some weird shape you've never seen, and you're wondering to yourself, how is he slicing through that dried leg
Yeah.
of whatever
Right.
it's soft butter?
Oh, it's true, right?
It's
You see it.
because they keep their knives sharp. Because
yeah.
hunters know to keep their knives sharp.
Well, it's
All we're
what-
back to poor people.
back to poor people, and also it's just it creates. You wouldn't associate poor people with just like a pleasure, but like if you're working, and like I said, if somebody throws a case like a bag of onions on your table and says cut through this, and your knife's dull, you're shaking your head. You don't want to do it. If your knife is sharp,
Yeah, no
you just
sweat.
start plowing away.
Just
All
start chopping potatoes.
right. It turns into a meditation.
Jacques Pepin is one of my favorite chefs. I love Jacques. I don't know his story entirely. I do know that he was raised in a restaurant family, and that he spent like the first X number of his years doing nothing but like cleaning the potatoes and the carrots.
Right.
And I think he would tell you that experience is the foundation of his understanding on how to cook, because I think he learned everything there. I think he learned patience. I think he learned how to maintain his tools.
Patience was the one thing, because I think that kind of repetitive, mundane,
Oh my
but
God.
understanding, but there's a purpose here.
Yeah.
The
But
patience.
when you look at a
goes-
restaurant's menu and they're like, okay, we have duck confit. What does that mean? That means every day somebody's cleaning duck. Every day.
Right. Yeah.
Like, what are you doing today? 6 ducks. What are you doing today? 6 ducks.
Right. Yeah.
6 ducks. And that gets to people after a while. But if you can learn the patience and you can see the end, you can get through that. And that's why I like Jacques, because, he started off in a space where he did this really seemingly mundane, insignificant, and repetitive task over and over and over again.
Oh yeah. That'll. What do they say? It'll build character.
But he's also a genius, because I do know that I think he went to I say I do know, but really I don't know. But I believe he went to Columbia and ended up getting like I think he was working on a master's degree in literature in relation to French food when he was hired on by who was it? Howard Johnson's, to help them like revamp their image and stuff. I mean, the guy he's a fantastic painer. I mean, he's
Well, he's a genius.
he is. He's not like your
that same situation may translate to someone else who grows cold and bitter.
yeah. I think he's one of those top like 3% kind of personalities.
Yeah.
Like everyone else kind of slips off to the side, and he's the kind of person who can just keep going through it and muddling through it because he
And this
sees.
is your favorite chef?
I love Jacques Pepin. Yeah, he's that would be the first cookbook I ever bought in my life. I
Okay.
bought 2 cookbooks on the same day, and the first one I paid for was Jacques Pepin, and one of his cookbooks, and the second cookbook I bought was The Joy of Cooking.
Okay.
It's a fantastic cookbook, and
Yeah.
since then I've collected a few others.
I like that. So would you suggest those?
Oh, absolutely.
I think I might. That's a good question cookbooks.
Yeah, absolutely. The Jacques Pepin was more like the fancy side of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
here's how to make a bird cage
But
out
the
of
Joy of
out
Cooking-
of sugar. The Joy of Cooking is like, even though it's influenced by like European and French culinary traditions and what have you, and has some of those higher end standards, how to make duck confit, blah 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 blah. really, it's an excellent reference and encyclopedia on basic American cookery. And people may not understand that American cookery, there's a lot of variations on American cookery, but American cookery in the sense of like the founding fathers' American cookery is cookery that's derived from French technique. Thomas Jefferson's chef was, even though he was a colored fellow and I believe a slave, he had trained in Paris. Most Americans, in that sense of like being of English stock, were basing their cuisine on French technique. Then there's the American cookery of the Louisiana Purchase, which is like all that heavy French influence that's melded with local things. And then there's the American cookery that comes along with, the Spanish-American War, where we pick up a great chunk of the Western United States that is all completely and totally influenced by Spain. And then there's the American cookery, which is the cookery of the Americas, which is your basic Indian cookery of corns, beans, and squash, and tomatoes, and the game and the fish and all that stuff. So there's a lot of things going on there. But the Joy has it does a really good job of pulling that information together into a single resource. So if you're not super specific on what you're looking for, you can pinpoint a reference point that will get you to where you got to go.
Yeah.
It's great. As a matter of fact, there's a whole section called Know Your Ingredients.
Yeah,
that people
cool.
just bypass because they're looking for recipes. They're looking for directions on how to do something. But the Joy gives you information that lets you understand why you're doing what you're doing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's awesome. So is the Fanny Farmer cookbook. It's a fantastic cookbook.
Yeah.
Anything from the Boston School of Cooking is a great cookbook. They have a great program also.
Cool. Well, we've been talking for almost 2 hours.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Wow,
great.
time flies, man.
Time flies, but that's great. I mean, I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but I'm honored that you came on here.
Man, I've had a blast. I've been very super excited about this whole concept.
Exciting to hear.
Yeah,
and yes, please. The concept is ours. I want this to be kind of an open door to you're always welcome to come back here. Any ideas, anytime you ever want to come. I'm trying to drill that home to everybody.
I think everybody should be doing this. The only thing I would say is that, you once asked me for like some constructive criticism, and I realize it'll take a while to get to it, but at some point, I think this could expand into kind of a round table experience.
I love that. Yeah, I love that idea.
You'll have to buy a couple new microphones and get some more stands.
Right now we have the ability to go up to 4. I have 3 mics. That mic is not going to cut it because it will pick up everything. We'll hear the neighbors down the street doing God knows what in the garbage man 5 miles away with that one. But I do have the ability to do 3 right now. So chef, sous chef, me.
Right.
I've even opened the idea that if there's 3 mics hooked up and there's 3 people here who had an idea for a podcast, just do it.
I think it would be cool to get. I think it would be cool to have the comparison and the contrasting of different people's experiences and visions, And that's one thing about the food industry that I feel is really powerful is that even though a lot of us, some of us have visions that we're not allowed to address because we're working for somebody else and we're not our own boss. And some of us have ideas that we get to explore because we work someplace that allows us that opportunity. We all kind of come from the same place of creativity and design and wanting to expand and move beyond who we are.
Sure.
And that's back to that idea of like the difference between being a cook and a chef.
Yeah.
Like the cooks just cook, but the chefs really, they don't limit themselves to just, chopping and assembling and doing somebody else's dirty work or what have you. They really do, deep down inside, I think, have a drive to do other stuff. And what's amazing to me is that the more people I meet who are what I consider chefs, whether they're in a position of power and authority or not, they have so many talents outside of the culinary world.
Oh,
They're
interesting.
artists, they're poets,
Yeah.
they're philosophers, they're mathematicians. There's some other aspect of their life that is really phenomenal.
Right.
And it's sometimes
There's a fire.
yeah, there's a fire there,
Yeah.
and the food is just like what you see.
Yeah.
It's just the light. You
It's a
don't
way to, put it out there
yeah.
for someone.
And it'd be really cool if there was like a few more people around the table. So as the conversations evolve, there's like, you could help, you could draw those experiences from those people and really highlight those aspects.
Oh, I love that. I do. I love that. I mean, of course, there'd be more microphones and whatnot. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. But that's not out of the question. That's actually, I kind of want this to kind of evolve into whatever it's going to be. Right now, like I said, there's a lot of biographical.
Right.
I was very excited to get you on here, and I'm glad you've been on here. You're still on here, but we kind of had more of a conversation, not so much about I was born here and I
Right.
went from A to. But I think some guys have been a little apprehensive. But think about the idea that a line cook, a chef, an executive chef, whoever can be listening in to whatever this, to a previous episode, to a future episode, and really connect with what somebody's saying in a way that they wouldn't have the opportunity to. And
Right.
I'm going to give everybody, however the best way to get a hold of you is, and I'll do that for everyone. And it might just be a way to connect more with people and make Austin, you pointed out, it's a little square.
It's a little square.
Maybe we can change that.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't it be nice?
Man, I tell you what, the best way to find me is the Counter Cafe on Sundays. Come have
Counter Cafe.
That's the plug. Yeah,
And Counter Cafe has, you guys don't have a commissary kitchen?
no, what we have is so we have the two locations, and we're working on a third on 29th and Guad, and so we have each
Cool.
each place has its own system.
I did not know. Oh, really?
Yeah. So what's interesting is what
Is it going to stay that way?
it's going to stay that way. What we do is the only thing that moves back and forth is we make biscuits for the most part. We have one lady now who's making biscuits at one location, and we transport those to the other locations between the two.
Right.
We've had it in the past set up so whoever came to work, I mean, you still have to learn how to make biscuits. Like it's part of the hiring process. Like you have to learn how to make biscuits.
I like that, yeah.
Because one day the lady won't be there.
Right.
And someone's got to make biscuits. And it's about maintaining the well-rounded abilities of a cook or an aspiring chef. If you can't bake, you're really not a chef, man. If you can't clean, if you can't do a basic cleaning on a number of animals, you're not really a chef. There's a certain body of knowledge that has to be inside of you.
Yeah,
Outside of just going, okay, well, I can imagine, all these different weird flavors coming together.
You really do need to meet a certain criteria.
You do.
And it's not just the skill set. Like I said, you need to be able to kind of see,
The big
maintain the
picture.
focus. Yeah.
Look at the line, and see the big picture.
Unfortunately, it's not for everybody. It doesn't mean you can't cook forever and be in a kitchen.
Right.
But, sometimes you need to know your place. And if you can't see, and I'm not talking to anybody, but I'm saying, there is that, and it's just it's cool to know.
It's just the way it is. So we make sure that whoever comes in, that they have to know how to make biscuits. So that's the one thing that gets distributed. Other than that, everything is done on site in the two locations. And when the third location comes online, it'll be the same. Everything will be on.
Will you be there too?
That's a really good question. I don't know, man.
Anybody who's not been to Counter Cafe, I don't know where or why you haven't, but Counter Cafe is delicious.
It's pretty good stuff.
It's absolutely delicious. That's why I said, do you have a commissary? Because it's so good.
We've got a pretty good handle on the protocols and maintaining is a level of expectation.
You guys are busy.
Yeah.
Like all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Not all the time. Most of the time.
It seems okay.
There are days.
A lot of times.
The other day it was like the day after taxes. We had like 9 people, but
Okay.
it's because everyone was like freaked out. But
Yeah, but there's this
Yeah.
rare.
But in the general aspect, like compared to other restaurants, we are definitely we are definitely busier more.
I think
throughout
for
the
good
year.
reason.
Yeah.
And I think it may be more of a local knowledge of, good
Yeah.
food.
There's local. There's that. There's a. We have a fairly high standard of expectation. Not everyone.
The bacon, where's the bacon come from?
So all the meats come from Diamond Ranch.
So
There's that. So we got we source really good stuff. We use Segovia Produce, which is a local company. They source out. They're our intermediary. They source out like all the other fruits and vegetables. We have a handful of direct relationships with growers. We use Amador Farms for our bib lettuce, but they can't grow year round, man. Like when the sun hits them in July.
this is where you
Yeah.
want to go eat.
Yeah.
Once it can't grow year round. So
You can't. But what we do is, we buy their stuff when they have it, and then
Yeah.
when they don't have it, we go through somebody else.
absolutely.
But again, like you could go to Kirby Lane for breakfast, but when you go to Kirby Lane, no one is back there on the line at Kirby Lane saying, "No, we're not going to serve you this because it's not up to our standards." What
Yeah.
they're saying is, "How many more of these do you have? Because I want to get these people out of here and get more people in." And that
Yeah.
and our level of expectation is a little higher than your average diner breakfast
Yeah, I was
joint.
going to say, I would never even have thought. It's funny because I guess you could compare Kirby Lane, but
Oh, absolutely. Like pancakes. and-
well, I mean, you could, but I would never even
I
have
wouldn't
done it until
either.
you. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's no comparison in standards and quality.
People, put us and Magnolia and Kirby because we're breakfast joints all in the same place.
it's
Like
I
I think
okay,
we're heads and shoulders better though.
well, yeah. Like I said, I would never even have put you guys like. We're not going to discredit anyone, but like
No.
you guys are, yes, definitely
You know,
going for
and some of
reaching
that-
for a different
Yeah,
kind of.
our bar is a little higher, and there's been a lot of flux and a lot of changes in the restaurant over the last couple of years.
It's going to happen.
It does happen. We just try to make sure that when people come in who are hires, that we explain to them like, hey, it doesn't matter if you have all the experience in the world or no experience in the world. This is what we're going for.
Yeah.
And you may not fit into the program.
Right,
It's
right.
very much like joining. It's a terrible cliche and maybe it's a poor metaphor, but it's like being on a sports team. If you are, LeBron.
I don't think so.
If you're on LeBron James and you're a star player and you can carry an entire franchise on your back, then that's awesome. But you're probably not a good fit for us.
Right.
Because we don't need that. What we need is a whole group of people who are able to function and win as a team.
Yeah.
People
yeah.
who are willing to support their coworkers, their team members, people to fill in on shifts when the other shifts open up, people who look at one person and say, "Hey, you need this Thursday off because you want to be with your kid, no sweat. You covered for me last Saturday when I wanted to be with mine, or I don't have anything to do, it's not a big deal." All the while making sure that like the food we put out there isn't subpar.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to fry an egg, that's fine. We'll teach you. And don't kid yourself. You'd be surprised at how many aspiring chefs don't know how to bake and don't know how to cook eggs.
Yeah. No.
They can make fucking double orange,
Right.
but they can't turn an over easy egg.
Which is, I would be surprised. That's crazy.
It is crazy
You
because
should know
like
that. I know the baking, but like
Yeah.
eggs, come on, you got to get
the
eggs.
chef hat. The history behind the chef hat. One of the histories, like the lore, is that when the chefs went into basically the monasteries after the fall of the Roman Empire, that each one of those folds they wore like the conical hat of like the church at the time, but that the fold, each one of those folds is for a way that you can prepare an egg, and that may or not be true.
Yeah.
If it is true, then that means that the majority of people who wear that hat haven't really earned it.
Yeah.
Because they could maybe get like to the first third.
You do the Benedicts on the menu there?
We do a Benedict. We have a crab cake Benedict, and we do a pastrami Benedict. We don't do a traditional. We don't use English muffin. We use a biscuit.
Yeah.
We don't do ham. We use pastrami. We use crab cake. We use
Pastrami.
steak. You can spinach and tomato if you want to make it like a Florentine style type thing. We do poach our eggs. our hollandaise sauce is a really good sauce. I like our hollandaise. We use champagne instead of champagne vinegar. We use butter. We use egg yolks. We put a
And
little.
is it prepared traditionally or with a blender?
So we have in our training manual 2 different ways to do it. Actually, there's one way in the recipe book, which is by hand, but people are trained also in a manner of using a hand wand. When I'm working, I make all of my hollandaise by hand.
And can you break that? You can do it the other way, obviously, but like there's just something different. Right?
If you do a hollandaise right, it's really hard to break it. The only way you can really break a hollandaise is if you overheat it, or if you add the fat into the protein too fast.
Too quickly, yeah.
You know?
Which is probably the most common.
Probably.
Well, I don't know. I guess there's a lot of things at play there.
Yeah, but it's making a hollandaise is not like it's not any difference than making a mayonnaise.
No, if you get the how you're supposed to do it, it's actually very simple. You just can't go too quick. You can't cut corners.
Yeah, I think what happens with people we have employees that use the hand wand.
Yes.
And I think what happens with a hand wand is that you end up with you end up overbeating the yolks.
Oh, you don't like that the texture and everything.
I don't like the consistency of the hand wand.
Okay,
hollandaise.
there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's something, and then also,
It doesn't
so you'll
hang.
never be without a whisk. And,
I always use a whisk. You have to use a really fine whisk, and you have to beat it in there slowly, and you have to let it cook, and it's over a double boiler, and you stir it as it cooks. And the idea is so that you get that light, fluffy hollandaise that just hangs on the egg.
So that's how I was taught to do hollandaise, and never. People throwing it in a blender.
Yeah,
they're all
shortcuts.
The hand, and I couldn't. I was like, but why?
Mostly because for us, the people that do it that way, it's because they're employees.
Yeah,
they're not chefs.
That could be true.
Sometimes they're not even cooks. They're just employees. They're just people who work on the line because they're
that's definitely true. That's definitely. But once you've done it with a whisk and you see how it can be, and it's not necessarily easy. It can definitely take time if you're.
No, it's definitely longer.
Yeah, it takes time, but there's just something about it where it just doesn't make sense.
It's funny that you bring that up because the other day, this cat Henry, one of our line cooks, walks up to me and he's like, "Hey, man." He's from Guatemala, and in his broken English, he was like, your hollandaise is different than mine and somebody else's. And I said, in what way? And he's like, el sabor es diferente. And I'm like, el sabor es diferente or la consistencia, like the consistency.
Yeah.
And he's like, todo. It's like everything's different. And I said, I don't know why. Are you following the book? And I'm speaking with him in my broken Spanish. I'm like, are you following the recipe book? And he says, yeah. So we could look at the recipe book, and I'm like, here's the volume, and here's the number of eggs, and here's the amount of champagne we're putting into it versus champagne vinegar. And there's different, and he's talking to me, and I'm like, when you put the eggs in the bowl and you've got them on the double boiler, are you tempering it with the water that you're pulling out of the poaching bath that has a vinegar in it so that it's at a certain temperature? So when you add the butter to it, it's not too, the egg yolks aren't cold, you're not shocking them. And he's looking at me. And he's got this look on his face like, what the fuck did I just ask, man? Because I'm, going through all these things. But at the end, he sees and I'm like, I do it by hand. You probably use the hand wand, but I always use the whisk. And I know what he's asking because I've seen his hollandaise. And the good news is on our worst day, our hollandaise is as good, if not better, than most places on their best day.
Yeah, I believe it. Right? I haven't had it personally, but I believe it.
So that's the good news. For him, I could see what he was talking about. He's like, why is my hollandaise as pale? Why is it thinner? Why is it not have that? Why is it not like hang and skirt the egg and just drape it ever so sultrily? Like there's all these things going on.
Right.
Because, he's not a chef. He's just a guy who works in the kitchen.
Right.
Sending money back home. But the good news is that he's curious.
Yeah, that's
and once that
good.
curiosity gets sparked, he's gonna start getting more curious. And I know that that's a good thing for him because I've also noticed that for however inexpensive the knife is that he uses, he's been he's begun bringing his own knife to work every day wrapped in a towel.
Yeah.
And that's the first sign, man.
Yeah.
He found the knife he likes.
Yeah.
Cheap knife, doesn't matter. But he takes it with him. And he wraps it up.
Oh, where's this? The east side or the other one?
This is on the east side.
Okay.
And he puts a little rubber band around the towel and he takes it with him to work. He's got, and that's the sign, man. That's how you know someone's on the path.
Little pride going on.
Yeah, you know, the little nuances in their behavior patterns.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, totally.
it's interesting you bring up the hollandaise. Interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, I could go on and on about it because of the techniques, and I guess it actually really does get down to like on a personal level. How are you creating?
How are you
hollandaise?
creating? You know, and our food is. I don't think our food is. To me, it's very normal food. All we do is follow the rules and the techniques that have been derived over the past like 1,500 years of cookery.
Right.
You know, we rest our steaks, we make a decent hollandaise. You know, an emulsification is emulsification. We make our own mayonnaise because once you know how to make a hollandaise, you can make a mayonnaise. You know,
And to simplify that, it's you guys have standards.
We
You
have standards.
You have quality standards that you're meeting.
that we try to meet as much as possible.
It's just not standards that, get bypassed when you're in
No.
the weeds.
No. As a matter of fact, the more in the weeds you are, the higher your standard should be.
Yeah.
Because the further deep into the trenches you get, the more you find there's opportunity for cutting corners and letting stuff slide.
Yeah, and if you start developing that,
Yeah, it's a bad habit, man.
Oh yeah,
a bad
you
habit.
can. It's like learning a martial art or something and learning it the wrong way,
Yeah.
or amongst many other things.
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix played a power chord wrong. Well,
Totally.
Sometimes it cannot be bad, I guess.
Right.
With that example.
But Jimi Hendrix himself, before he died, his personal goal was to go to school for music
Yeah.
because he knew his limitations. He knew that when he played a power
Isn't
chord,
that crazy?
he knew it was technically incorrect.
Yeah.
What he understood was that it wasn't his creativity and his genius that was in question. It was the technique that he was using that was limiting his creativity and his genius.
Man, full circle. We're back on the music and Jimmy, and
And by the way, he played the blues, and the blues is the music of poor people.
that's true. And can you even imagine if that man made it through school?
Can you imagine having him as a fucking classmate?
Oh yeah.
Like you enroll at like
You would not succeed at class. It would be a goo ga,
yeah.
What is this guy doing?
So I signed up for a guitar class. You never guess who's in my guitar class. Who's in your guitar class? Jimi Hendrix. Guitar 101.
Yeah, right.
What? Yeah.
Right. Today we taught him how to actually use a left-handed guitar instead of a right-handed guitar flipped upside down with his trigger.
Holy cow! And those are the things. That's the thing about technique. Like when we were talking earlier about improvisation, the foundations you learn upon, they are important. No one says you have to stick to a recipe. What you have to know is you have to know why the recipe works, and then you can improvise because you're not just flailing in the wind. You're not just running amok. You're building off of a foundation.
Well, and that's true. And to simplify, maybe someone who's might be listening who doesn't follow a recipe, if you're going to make pancakes, you need flour, right? You need
some sort of starch.
Some sort of starch, sugar.
Sure.
Let's just say flour, sugar, and then you're going to need.
Let's say starch and sweetener.
Okay.
Unless you want to make it a savory pancake.
And I guess
yes.
technically don't need soda or powder, but you do. But
Leavening agent.
right, you need something
Yeah.
there. But so you're going to need that, and then you need your milk and your eggs and whatever else, vanilla, whatever. But you've got a very baseline there, and then you may not follow the recipe in
Exactly.
quotes, but and you're adding cinnamon and you're adding
Exactly.
maple syrup from Vermont, and
Exactly.
you're doing whatever you're doing. But at the end of the day, you're following something, and just to not recognize that you actually are,
Exactly.
because you kind of made up. But there's a fundamental
There's a fundamental. I was talking to my girlfriend's
for
kid.
most things.
My girlfriend's kid yesterday. We were building a fire in the backyard. We were going to burn a bunch of shit. And I asked him, like, what are the 3 ingredients of a fire? And he was like,
How old?
He's 9.
Okay.
And he said, oh, well, you need some wood. I said, okay, we'll call that fuel. And he said, you need like a flame. I said, okay, we'll call that spark. And he's
2.
like, well, I don't know what else. He's like, you need some air. We'll call that oxygen. So fuel, spark, and air, right? That gives you a burn in any kind of situation. If it's wood and it's a flame and it's oxygen, you got a bonfire. If it's jet fuel and, a spark plug and, a turbine, you've got a jet engine, whatever it is, if you're burning something, fuel, spark, and oxygen, that's like your 3 things. So like in the pancake metaphor, you need a starch. If you're making a sweet pancake, you need a sweetener. And if you want a pancake that's not a flat cake and you want the rise, you need a leavening agent.
Right.
But leavening agent could be any kinds of things.
Yeah.
Leavening agent could be could be something like a fermented batter that already has a natural carbon dioxide inside of it.
Right.
So all you do is pour it on the grill and it lifts on its own, So you're right in the sense that, like, as long as you break it down if you can break it down into its relative ingredients,
And that is,
you can build all kinds of amazing things.
but in its essence, that's the recipe.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. And we don't follow the recipe, and we got this and this and that. But
Right.
at
But
the
we
end of the day,
understand
there's
why.
a backbone.
Yeah,
right.
we understand the fundamental backbone. We understand why what we're doing is what we're doing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, some places it's all about luck. Something happens, people stick with it. They don't know why it works. They just do, and they run with it.
What's that place in New Orleans? Everybody goes right when they go there. The beignets. What is it?
We made some fake beignets the other day.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, scoop of pancake batter in a fryer.
Right. What kind of oil? Because that's they use cottonseed oil.
We use a rice bran oil. Rice bran oil has a real neutral flavor and a super
You see,
high smoking
I
temperature.
really hope anybody listening is listening, wanting to go to Counter Cafe, because that's right. I've not heard of that. Yeah.
Rice bran oil has a super high smoking point, so you can fry well with it, and it's a very neutral flavor.
So pancake batter, bloop,
Right
right
in
in
the
the
fryer.
fire,
Yeah.
whatever shape it comes out, circular, ovalish,
Kind of
whatever.
circular. Yeah, use a little ice cream scoop.
And then a dollop of.
No, just
Powdered
bury it in
sugar.
bury it in powdered sugar.
Yeah.
And
Got to cool it off though, otherwise it'll.
yeah. So yesterday, or I guess the other day when I was I had made the day before, I had made a red wine and blueberry reduction to go with the strip steak.
Nice. Yeah.
So once it chilled off, it formed kind of a gelatinous consistency. I added a little bit of sugar and some liquid to it, and I put it on top of the beignets.
Ooh.
So and I threw some
Nice.
blackberries in there, so it was like a red
What,
red
was
wine.
that, like a special or?
Yeah. So you get like 3 counter beignets, dusted in powder, like rolled in powdered sugar, with the red wine and a
That sounds
blackberry
good, man.
reduction, with a side of fruit and a crab cake and a poached eggs and a cup of coffee for $15.
Okay. All right.
Like everything you need, man.
Oh yeah. Pancake batter, fryer. The world is your oyster.
Oh, totally, dude.
You can do whatever you want.
I mean,
It
funnel
goes-
who doesn't love a funnel cake, right?
Oh my god! Just dripping it in.
Seriously, dude.
Oh yeah.
We a couple of years ago. This is the second time I've worked at the counter. The first time was about 10 years ago, and I did the same thing in the summertime, or we fresh peaches and strawberries. You dip them in pancake batter, you deep fry them, and you call them a fritter. You take the pancake batter, you drizzle it around the fryer, it becomes a funnel cake. I mean, it's all the same stuff.
Well, I remember once making a decadent piece of French toast with, like, we're talking, vanilla, maple syrup, brown sugar, heavy cream, eggs, all in, like, on a challah
Oh,
bread.
dude, yeah, heck yeah.
Dipped,
yeah.
made to perfection,
Yeah.
taking the time, dropping it in some pancake batter and throwing it in a fryer,
Oh, absolutely.
cutting it up, putting some peanut butter and jelly on it.
Holy shit, dude!
You might as well not stop and throw bacon on it or something.
Man, it's like the ultimate croque monsieur. It's like
And you know what would happen after that is like, it's so good. It's almost better to make because once you eat it, you're like, I was expecting a little bit more because there's so
much process.
There's so much happening.
wow.
Yeah.
You know, I picked up a trick one time from my an ex-girlfriend's mom. Whenever she made French toast, she always put a little butter down on the flat top, and then she sprinkled some sugar on it.
Ooh, yeah, that's
So
a
it would
good
caramelize
Yeah.
and give you like a little like flanny creme brulee kind of like
Oh.
on the outside. Yeah.
A French toast is a very regular thing over here.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I might try that. And I get stuck eating it a lot more than I want to because my daughter's 5 and she wants it all the time. She enjoys making it, you know.
Right.
And then when
But she's
sit
only
down-
going to eat like half a piece.
Yeah, and then I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll take a couple bites.
Yeah.
And yeah, more often than
Well,
not.
I will say this, that the beautiful thing about being a father is that we are walking garbage disposals. And the beautiful thing about being a father who's in the food industry is that we are walking garbage disposals.
That's well said, yes. That is very true, yeah.
We get to eat whatever.
You can eat whatever. No, it's very true. You got to be careful, though. I mean, you walking garbage disposal.
Walking garbage disposal.
That's-
I
yeah.
finish off all my daughter's food.
Oh, yeah. Especially, I mean, you try to have them finish?
I push her to eat everything she can, but when it comes down to it, she eats what she's going to eat, and I just finish the rest.
Well, I literally, whatever she's eating, I plan what I'm eating. Like, I'm like, well, I'm not going to make this much because I'm going to be eating that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, she makes like.
You got to balance. You can't just.
Yeah, she has so she'll make what she makes, and she'll have that volume of food in her plate, and I will have my volume of food. And when she doesn't eat her volume of food, I will eat the leftover volume of her food. So it doesn't matter how much food is on the table, I'm always finishing it.
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. It
A
can
lot,
be
of,
like,
lot of extra carbohydrates you
Yeah.
probably wouldn't be eating regularly.
except for the mac and cheese. She does a really good job of finishing off mac and cheese.
Yeah.
She's a lot like me in that way. When I was a kid, if it wasn't the bread, butter, and sugar sandwiches, which if I allowed her to have, she would be very excited. It was definitely egg noodles and butter. That was another favorite as a kid.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that's my. And
so-
Parmesan cheese, right?
Oh God, so good.
That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the staple here right
Yeah.
now. Scott, what are we having tonight? Butter noodles.
Butter noodles.
Butter
cheese.
noodles.
My dad used to call the. My dad.
I
used-
asked her once, I said, do you know any other food? She said, mac and cheese. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, maybe I should stop asking.
So, technically, mac and cheese and butter and noodles is
Oh, it's-
really the same thing.
Oh, it's the same thing, especially when you douse it with Parmesan cheese.
Well, because cheese is just another form of butter.
yeah. Not
Yeah.
thought about this like that.
Yeah. Right?
Interesting,
Milk and then butter, milk and then butter, then cheese.
Yeah, and that's why
Triple
it's so
triple
good.
cream brie is like really soft butter. It's all the same, man.
You ever put a piece of butter on your daughter's like toast or whatever, and it didn't melt? And
Okay.
They just
So
take the butter
what
off.
she does is she just takes the butter like right off the stick with her fork
Yeah.
and then eats it.
Okay. Then yes.
She skips the toast entirely
no shame, right? And I'm always okay. Yeah.
because she also likes cheese.
but the same thing. I'll go open some white cheddar and just cut a piece off and just eat it. Now,
well, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're an adult and you're allowed to do that. But with kids, they're like,
But hell, I guess if I haven't gone shopping and I've got butter,
Yeah.
I might as well cut a piece off.
when I was growing up, my grandfather
In
always.
reality, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Good, yeah.
And when I was growing up, my grandfather always had a bag of. On my mom's side, my grandfather always had a open container of saltines and soft butter, and he would just smear butter and saltines and eat that all like while he watched like read Louis L'Amour country books, like Western
my
books, or
God.
watch westerns. I loved it. It was fantastic.
I was like, it sounds. I'm like, I hope I'm not doing that next week.
I've only seen one place ever in town that does that. El Patio on Guadalupe.
Okay.
When you sit down at the table, it's a Mexican joint, but instead of giving you like tortillas, they give you saltines and butter.
Wow.
And
there you go.
the first time I went there, I sat down. I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm at my grandma's house.
Yeah, right.
And-
you would naturally.
Yeah, but saltines and butter.
Because saltines don't vary
Yeah,
too much.
poor man's food.
Yeah, poor man's food. That's,
Yeah.
full circle.
Poor man's food.
Full circle.
Cheese and bread. Speaking of like great places and poor man's food,
Yeah.
one last comment. There used to be a place up off of Guadalupe where the Starbucks is at now called hot shit. I'm gonna forget this name. It's gonna ruin the story. So
You'll think of it. I'll throw it in there.
they it was a campus favorite, and they had basically a poor man's dish, and like it was called like a peasant's dish. And what you would get was a bowl of soup and a chunk of bread and a glass of wine for like $8.
Ooh, that's good.
Fantastic, man.
Yeah, that's a good
So
deal.
fantastic. And it was a beautiful place, little cafe. And what was the name of that joint?
On Guadalupe.
It was on Guad, right there. So there's like a Tower Records, and if you head west from Tower Records, there's like a Starbucks there. And there used to be a place called Inner Sanctum Records, and all that got like replaced with like a Panda Express and a Starbucks
Yeah.
and some Jimmy John's or some bullshit. But it was a little French joint named anyway. I can't remember it because I'm old, but it was fantastic because it had this dish that, like, by all accounts, was like the perfect meal. You know, glass of wine, a hearty bowl of like brothy stew or soup, and a chunk of like loafy bread with some butter, man.
And no, at the end of the day, that's all you need.
Dude,
if you
any
need
time of the-
anything else, you're
any
not
time
human.
of the day,
Yeah.
breakfast, lunch, dinner, it was perfect, you know. And what's crazy is that, you know, as Americans, we're constantly looking overseas. We're constantly looking to the old country. We're always looking to Europe as like these like standard bearers of how we're supposed to behave and how we're supposed to eat and all this whatever. And here's a joint who was giving us exactly like what we yearned, and it doesn't exist anymore. It got
Yeah.
replaced by a shitty chain coffee company
And there's bullfighting there for
Yeah.
that kind of
doing the exact same thing, giving you what you yearned for, and doesn't last because.
But I'm reaching here. But you know, we bring conversations like this out. We might connect people, and who knows? Who knows?
who knows?
Might bring about some change, or you know, maybe people might listen to a chef talking about something and say, "All right, I'll give it a go."
Oh, they're gonna think I'm all just crazy and full of shit.
Pigfoot.
Pigfoot.
Don't knock it until
Don't
you've
knock
tried
it.
it, and you're not going to be able to try it
Yeah.
unless we open our minds a little
Yeah.
bit.
If you order a trotter, insist upon the trotter.
There you go. Well, you heard it here. Chef Phil, Counter Cafe, Sundays on the east side.
Man, I'm Sundays on the east side, Mondays and Tuesdays at Lamar,
So
Wednesdays and
back and
Thursdays
forth.
at the east side. If we open a third joint up, or not if, but when we open a third joint up, who knows when I'll be up there too. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, and Counter Cafe, some solid food. Chef Phil, awesome guy. Going to be back on here, I hope.
I hope as well, man. I've really enjoyed this.
Oh, absolutely. Doors open.
Thank you, sir.